shall all be cleansed.
Okay, so Malcolm is here, which means I need to make him speaker. Okay, Sir Malcolm, try saying something. Let's try this manually. Sometimes you gotta finesse just a bit. Oh, I can hear you. There we go. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. All right. So, Sir Malcolm, America is gonna collapse the global economy, but don't worry, America produces its own oil and gas, therefore it will be fine. I think this is like the new cope that just dropped for like week 3, week 4.
I think the thing I'm hearing from my friend in DC is that the thinking inside the White House right now is that they only have to take the victory point at Carg Island, destroy the battlefield-free MCOMs, you sort of plant the bomb at the mobile command computers and wait 40 seconds, and then they explode, and then you win the match. So they want out of this war, and they think that, seizing Carg Island will do it. But that's not how this shit works, buddy. This is not a video game, Mr. Chang. This is real life.
Hey, but Sir Malcolm, there's a map of Carg Island on Battlefield 3. It is a video game.
Yeah. Yeah. That one was pretty good. I liked Operation Firestorm, which would be very topical because it's like the fucking oil field in Iraq or something. But yeah, Carg Island was in the upper half of maps in Battlefield 3, definitely.
Yeah.
But Caspian Checkpoint was much better.
All they gotta do is blow up the terminal. Jeez, man. It's just funny, man. It's fucking funny. Like you tell them, for example, that okay, Qatar produces 1/3 of global helium per annum. Okay, without that helium, your AI, whatever the fuck you're into, semiconductor, medical devices, MRI machines, they're all fucked, right? And then, like the sulfur that comes out from the Straits of Hormuz, that's like what? 1/4 to 1/3 of the sulfur that Americans import for their fertilizers. It's like, yeah, we're a fucking autarky, man. America is a fucking autarky. Yeah, we're gonna collapse the global economy. The 12D chess. Europe gets fucked. Japan gets fucked. America, post-World War II, rises from the ashes 2.0. I'm like, no, dude. You are more fucked than all of the fucking provinces and the vassals. Because you are the guy who's not just, gonna get hit by the fucking helium and the sulfur and all these other shortages and outages, but you're also gonna get hit by, like, the financial economies of these things collapsing and them going, okay, man, I'm your creditor. Sucks to be you, man. I'm just gonna dump you. It's like, they still haven't figured this out. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the thing is, the global economy, it's this incredibly complicated machine that nobody alive right now has any, like, actual grasp over. It's just too sort of complex. There are too many interlocking systems for, like, the human brain to actually model all of it. You can get pretty close, I think. There are probably a handful of people who more or less can give you the rundown of how this is going to work. But the problem is none of them are anywhere near the administration in the US. So these people, they just go, oh, well, we're going to win and, like, we're going to benefit from this. But if you look at, like, Australia right now, I mean, they're like a fifth order effect or something because they they don't import their oil from the Gulf. They import their oil from people who import their oil from the Gulf. Or exactly. Rather they import their, like, refined products. So petroleum, diesel, and so on. Now, turns out that, like, all of the ships that are supposed to arrive from refineries in South Korea and so on, they're all being canceled. Because this works on, like, a monthly timetable. So you don't actually go out, like, you're buying groceries. You're buying them essentially on the spot market. It's like, we have 8 ships coming in next month. So like, where the gas next month and the month after that is coming from. In this case, these countries are just saying, well, we don't have enough for ourselves and we don't have inputs, feedstocks for refineries. So all of the oil you thought you would have next month, it's not going to arrive.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they have a good solution to this at all.
No.
What is interesting here, though, is that like all of the vassal states of the empire are actually being very obedient. For me, that is a sign that the empire is going to fall apart.
Yeah.
That is an accelerant. Because if you think about like a political crisis, the essence of a political crisis is essentially that it's a problem of flexibility in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
You have reforms you need to make, and you can't really make them. Like it's impossible to reach some sort of compromise or set of reforms that would keep the system going. So, I mean, what happens in the lead up to the American Civil War? Positions on the issue of slavery and taxation, they harden, people start beating each other up. And then if you ask them, like, can't you find some sort of solution to this? Can't we, like, meet in the middle? Everyone says no, regardless of which side they're on. Well, in this crisis, the Iranians offered the Japanese sort of separate mediation for extracting oil from the Gulf, essentially. Like, if you make a deal with us, your ships can pass, and you can you can get oil even though the strait is locked down.
Yeah, basically.
And like a lot of people in Japan said, like, this is a great deal. You have to take it. Like, we need this oil. But then the government came out and said, no, we're not going to seek a separate deal. We are only going to make a deal like under the leadership of the United States and our NATO allies. And so at that point, you're basically saying this system is not going to bend at all.
Yeah.
Like it has no bend in it whatsoever. So either like enough force is applied to it that it breaks in two, or, you know, the crisis passes tomorrow. But the crisis isn't going to pass tomorrow. So the cowardice and the sort of confusion and the way people are acting like deer in the headlights, like the Australians have 20 days of oil left or whatever, and they're going to say, oh, well, we have everything under control until they run out entirely. And the Japanese are like, oh, well, we can't do anything. Like, how would that look? Like, what if we can't buy Patriot missiles? So, like this crisis is much worse than I originally thought it would be. I kind of underestimated just how unflexible and cowardly like the elites in non-American countries would be.
Yeah, well, like the Japanese are basically, you know, they've quote unquote optimized themselves entirely to their American hegemon. And so in systems theory, right, like optimization, right? Well, the opposite of optimization is slack, right? Any system that has zero slack is extremely brittle, because if you optimize, what that means is you can only optimize in a finite number of directions. And once you've got system or compound shocks, right, and you don't have the slack to absorb that, you basically shatter, right? Which is basically what's going to happen to Japan. The Japanese, I think you already saw the videos and stuff going on, but like people are already protesting in Japan where, like, I don't know, the average age is like 47, 49 years old. So like even the freaking old people are on the streets protesting not just the war, but like, you know, gasoline and all these other prices going up, right? And it's only going to get worse. Like basically what's going to happen now is countries are going to start, and I think they've already started doing this. There's like a force majeure. Force majeure is basically countries going that, okay, well, we are in extraordinary circumstances, so we can't meet our obligations. Sorry, guys, right? That's like a fancy business speak way of saying, well, you know, we promised to send you this ship on this day, but it's actually not going to show up, right? You were talking about Australia. Australia, I think they get their stuff from Indonesia, India, and a couple of these other places, right? Those guys buy the stuff from the Gulf states. They do some refining, and then the Australians buy it from them, right? So Australia is going to be absolutely screwed. South Korea is getting screwed. Japan's getting screwed, right? And the Americans are going to get screwed the hardest because, like, eventually what's going to happen with these societies is, okay, oil is at $250 or whatever. Oh, fuck, we're out. Oh, well, we need to liquidate our holdings, get some cash, use that cash to buy the oil, right? And America gets that hit. America gets 110% of that hit, right, when that happens, right? So, and if he tries to do the Carg Island thing, that's a whole other can of worms. But like, at least from like the 30,000 bird's eye foot view, that's kind of like the economic fallout that we are at most several weeks and months away from.
Yeah, and also the interesting thing about America specifically is, I mean, America is not self-sufficient, and this is another one of these areas where the insane complexity of the system is just several levels above what the fucking Fox News hosts and mentally ill Jewesses like Laura Loomer and so on are capable of comprehending.
Oh yeah.
But America, from what I've read, it's not really self-sufficient in terms of oil because oil comes in different grades. There are heavy and light oils, and there are sour and sweet ones.
Yeah, that's right.
The U.S. actually is not particularly well endowed when it comes to either the refining capacity or the oil feedstocks that you need for diesel, for example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So VTI is, light and sweet crude, and light and sweet crude is really good for, basically pouring into other oil grades, for example. So if you want to actually exploit the Venezuelan oil, you need some other kind of oil to basically pour in and make it more usable, because it's more like, chewing gum rather than a liquid when you try to extract it. But VTI, it's really good for making gasoline.
Yeah.
It's not very good for making diesel, unfortunately, and it's not good for a lot of other things that are, secondary byproducts of petrochemicals, like, sulfuric acid. And the upshot here is just that the U.S. is actually going to be hit with a bunch of shortages in various areas, and also a bunch of really interesting pricing dynamics. So, for example, prices for gasoline at the pump on the Western Seaboard right now.
Yeah.
These prices are absolutely insane. Like, I've seen pictures of like $8 a gallon or
$8.50,
something.
$9. Some of them are like, $8.50, $9.
Yeah, that is just absolutely crazy. But the thing about that is, it's not just about, Democrats being really evil, like in the thrall of Greta Thunberg. Though, I mean, insofar as that is real, it's great. I mean, we love our Swedish autistic queen here. But there's also the problem here of there being a huge, like, demand black hole in all of Asia. And if you have a bunch of oil or sort of oil products here, and you have them on the Western Seaboard, you can just ship that stuff over to Japan and make a huge, you make a huge profit on the arbitrage.
Yeah.
And so the closer you are in terms of like logistical weight here, or like the ease of transport to like these places like Asia that really relied on the Gulf, your prices just go up. Due to rules of supply and demand. And the US can try to basically impose some sort of export ban on its own oil products. But again, because these oil products that the US on a net level, like, produces more petrochemicals, or about the same amount of petrochemicals as it consumes. But it doesn't really produce this, like, it actually exports a lot and imports a lot, because The
Yeah.
production is not the same profile as the actual demand here. So if you just say, well, I'm just going to stop exporting, what happens is that you end up with a huge surplus of stuff you don't need and a huge deficit of stuff that you do need. So you will create this huge imbalance in terms of the internal U.S. domestic market. But that probably means that Trump is stupid enough to try it.
Yeah, I mean, like, basically inflows and outflows, right? Inflows and outflows. So enough, we produce, like, all these, like, petrochemicals. We are autarkic in energy and whatever, right? Well, no, not really. Like, as you were saying, what it really is that you have these, you have these flows of goods and energy and what have you, right? And as long as the flows keep coming in, yes, then you have a surplus of petrochemicals that you're producing. But as you were saying, right, to make good use of the thing, you need something to pour into and what have you, right? And what's basically going to happen now is if you're like an oil guy or a gas guy, right, and the Japanese and the Chinese and the Thai and whatever, whoever else in the Asia Pacific, right, they're going to pay you a lot more. They're just going to pay you a lot more. So, like, unless the Americans actually do an export ban, which is probably going to happen quite soon, right? You're going to see the reserves go down. You're going to see gas prices go up. Everything's going to go up. And as these things go up, right, like, the ability for America to wage this war diminishes further, right? Like, right now, what are they doing? They're, like, flying out these stupid B-52s from fucking Scotland, right? The Europeans are not giving them the airspace, so they're, like, flying all across the Mediterranean, then into Israel, then into fucking, like, Jordan, and then Saudi Arabia, and then I think, like, okay, we're 500 miles away from Iran, let's fire the Jassim now, at the random, like, truck in the desert, right? But that's where things are at. I don't think, like, this is a war where, like, we're going to see the war go 1 or 2 years, as I said on a previous show, in the sense that, like, there's just no ability to continue that long. I mean, I think this morning they shot down, like, another fucking F-15 in Kuwait or whatever. I think another one was shot down near, like, the one of these Hormuz islands, right? They're losing, like, one jet every 1 or 2 days. This is fucking insane, right? Like, the Iraq War was 2003 to 2011, 2,782 days, right? 24 airframes, fixed wing, were lost as in, like, damaged or destroyed, right? Rotary wing, so, like, helicopters and that sort of stuff, 138 destroyed or damaged, right? So around 160, okay? We are on, like, day 23, so just a bit over 3 weeks, right? Americans have lost well over 24 fixed wing, right? Lost as in, like, damaged or destroyed, right? In terms of, like, rotary wing, well, we don't have helicopters yet because, again, no ground invasion as of yet, right? And whatnot. But if you count all these, like, UAVs and all these other things that are being shot down, yeah, I mean, the Iranians are shooting down, like, 4, 5, 6 of them a day, right? So we've already surpassed the 160, 170 if you say that, okay, well, in the year 2026, UAVs are kind of taking on the role that, like, these rotary wing things used to, right? So this is a
one
fucking
thing though.
Yeah,
One thing.
go ahead, man. Go ahead.
We have the customary technical issues. So, Kenneth, if you're speaking, there's only some sort of, like, audio interference coming from your mic.
Yeah, I think something's going on over there.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, but it's like a windy sound that's coming in as well, right? So maybe stay muted for now, and then if you wish to speak, good. So yeah, there we go. I think that took care of it. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. So continue.
Yeah, but what I was saying was that, like, we're already, like, within the first 3 weeks, we're seeing ungodly levels of attrition. Ungodly levels. Like this is like, okay, well, add up all the UAVs, add up all the fixed wing, add up all this other stuff. We're probably over 150, 160 destroyed and damaged, right? This can't continue, like, past a year, man. Like, the Americans don't build anything anymore. Where the fuck are they getting all the replacements for this thing, right? Like, do they even build any more Reapers? No, they don't. They don't have any Reapers because, like, the replacement, quote unquote, is supposed to be sometime in the 2030s, right? And okay, but that's never going to happen because the Chinese just said, hey man, there's a rare earth ban for you guys, so you're not getting this stuff. So There's
Yeah, I
multiple
think
things.
the interesting thing here about the air campaign is, I mean, you will see people essentially live in different realities with this stuff right now.
Yeah,
So you have people who basically uncritically accept they uncritically accept they get fed something by Centcom or whatever, and they go, oh well, this is true. The primary example of this is the tale that A-10s and Apache attack helicopters are swooshing around the Gulf, just blowing stuff up.
Mm.
And this is supposed to be like the U.S. bringing out the big guns, like a close air support plane that was arguably obsolete when it was made. And if you go back and you read like aviation papers for aviation nerds and so on in the 80s.
Yeah.
They do like tactical profiles on the A-10 where they say, yeah, this plane is mostly obsolete. Like the cannon, you can't use that against the Russians. Like it'll just get shot down by Shilkas or missile AD. So the point of the A-10 is you have like these pylons for Maverick missiles and laser guided bombs and so on.
Yeah.
You don't use the cannon because that would be retarded in the year of our Lord, 1983. Dude, you're not going to be using an A-10 in the year of our Lord, 2026.
No.
Especially the same fucking A-10. And airframes don't get better with age. They're not like wine, okay? They just get metal fatigue problems. So, but again, like even if A-10s had some sort of tactical niche here that they could fill, which they don't, they're saying they're using them to blow up boats or whatever. Well, you can use a lot of other things to blow up boats, like Reapers.
Yeah.
But even if they had a tactical niche, where would you base them? Like they don't have very impressive range. I think like A-10s have kind of like fully laden. They have like attack helicopter equivalents in range.
450 kilometers, a bit higher than that, I think. 450, 500.
Yeah, that's not a lot. That's not a lot. Even carrier-based aircraft, which have shorter range than land-based aircraft, like the FA-18 Super Hornet, have like 700, 800, something like that. So it's really not a long-ranged plane, and it wasn't designed for it. It was designed to be based in Germany and to blow up columns of Soviet tanks crossing the Fulda Gap. That was it. That was its purpose. And the Soviet Union is gone, and the world has moved on. Like no one would do these tank columns at any point.
Yeah,
like they don't work. But like you can't base these things anywhere like close. And the thing about these A-10s is they fly really slowly.
Yeah.
So if you base them in Jordan or whatever, where it's maybe still safe to base stuff, it's kind of not, because air bases in Israel are being destroyed. So maybe you base them in fucking Crete. Okay, so you base an A-10 in Crete, and then you refuel it like 4 times as it's flying to the Gulf. And if someone picks up the phone and says, well, I have, near the coast of Oman, I have this speedboat that, we need an A-10 to blow up. Okay, well, that's going to take like a 6-hour trip or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Maybe a 3-hour, 4-hour trip. But like that speedboat is going to be pretty far gone once you actually arrive. But then you have, but still, like this is all to say that some people basically live in this bubble where they consume all of these snippets of propaganda, essentially, and they don't think in very basic logical terms, which is like, okay, what is the ferry range or the combat range, rather, of an A-10? What bases are actually available and so on? Like if you have that level of thinking, that level of knowledge, you just immediately realize like this is not true. And then you look at the sourcing and it's like, well, my dad at Nintendo told me so. But for everyone else who actually like follows this stuff, it really seems like the U.S. air campaign is it's doing like it's a disaster, to be completely frank. Because again, the problem here is that there's no actual goal. No, I mean, Clausewitz 101 is essentially that war is about marrying military means to political ends.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what your political end state is, you are basically like the monkey trying to plod along at a typewriter and hoping you end up with like a PhD paper on like nuclear physics or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, a monkey doing that like for a couple of million years will eventually produce some sort of scientific paper just by the law of averages here.
Yeah.
But the US doesn't have a million years. And so the target selection seems all out of whack. It's like, okay, we're going to blow up some police stations in Tehran. And we're also going to blow up some border posts in like Khuzestan or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we're going to hit some like ships at the dock.
Yeah.
You know, these large surface combatants that are not survivable in warfare and that aren't crewed. And then we're going to blow up, I don't know, some entrances to some tunnels in central Iran. And so on and so on. Like, the thing you have to realize is that Centcom at this point, it's an organization, it's like any kind of really shitty bureaucracy that you've interacted with, where it's like chasing, like this new public management bullshit, where it's like, Centcom measures its success in the amount of bombs it drops.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, and
targets
I'm not making
hit.
this up.
Targets hit. That's what they show. Like when they make their graphics, they're like 8,900 targets hit or whatever the fuck. Like, okay, but what the fuck did you hit? Right? They don't even tell you that.
Yeah, exactly. And so the thing is, like, if you're a pilot, you are out there and you're chasing, you know, this metric, which is targets hit. So if you see a fucking abandoned truck in the middle of the desert, you're going to hit that one because nobody is going to say, well, was this truck really a drone launcher? They're going to say, thank you for helping us improve our metrics so we can get promoted.
And they used to be able to tie those metrics to some better propaganda. Like their propaganda is just really shitty. I was listening to Angela Nagel talk about how poor it is in comparison to the Iranian propaganda, which, Malcolm, I was wondering if I might get your reaction to the head of the Iranian Central Police Department saying that if the EU needed help, defending Greenland, that they could turn to Tehran for help if they wanted help against Trump's threats.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the Iranians here is that they are obviously on the top of their game. They have access to U.S. media, and they actually hit all the pain points. They go up there and they point blank say, I hope you like paying $2 a gallon more on behalf of Epstein.
Yeah,
and the releasing of the missiles, like the Rachel Corrie, that was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is no American knows who Rachel Corrie is.
Yeah,
like,
they don't remember.
This is the one weakness American have. Like, this is the one weakness that Iranians have. They go like, well, as most Americans or as all Americans remember, you know, what Westmoreland said about Vietnam.
Yeah, like as all Americans who've read Tocqueville have said, you know, you in America, obviously you've read Tocqueville. I'm like, bro, nobody in America fucking reads fucking Mark Twain, all right?
Yeah,
they don't even...
These are fucking goy cattle, bro.
Yeah.
Like, they don't read, they don't think, they move. And it's like, okay, Westmoreland, who was he? Some guy in Vietnam, whatever. Like, you will find some people in Washington, D.C. who are policy wonks who remember who Westmoreland is. If you think like a Fox News adult boomer has enough mental like presence of mind to actually reason at that level, like, sorry, you overestimate the Americans. Which, like, okay, you can. you can criticize the Iranians for not understanding the depths of depravity and ignorance of the ordinary American, but fine. Like, other than that, I would say their propaganda works pretty well. But just to finish the point on the air war, at this point, it really seems like if you do this tracking of tankers, and sure, they can turn off their transponders, but there really seems to be pretty strong reasons for why they want to keep them on, to avoid accidents and so on. But like the amount of tankers in the Middle East has really fallen off a cliff, and the sorted generation seems to be much lower because I think there's two reasons for this, or at least two. One is just that if you think about like the U.S. tanker fleet, it's composed of, like, there used to be 3 planes and now there's only 2. There used to be there is the KC-135, and then there's the Extender, which is now retired from service and so no longer active. And then there's the KC-42 Pegasus. The KC-135 is a militarized Boeing 707.
Yeah, that's right.
And a 707, for those who don't know, this is like the first generation of like actual sort of commercial jetliners. This shit is from the 1950s. We are talking 50-year-old, like literally 50-year-old airframes, or 60-year-old in some cases. These airframes are not, they can't actually fly all that much. If you try to fly them, they will start breaking really quickly. And so there seems to have been at least one shoot down. I know that Larry Johnson, who still has some CIA contacts, he insists that the 2 tankers that were damaged with one of them crashing over Iraq, that this was enemy fire. But there have been other incidents too, which seems to point to like mechanical failure, which makes a lot of sense. Like, of course, a 60-year-old plane is going to be incredibly unreliable. And I don't really think that Boeing even manufactures like spare parts for this stuff anymore. But then you have the KC-42 Pegasus, which is new, but there's only a few of them around. And you have to think about like the composition of the fleet. The US right now has on paper like 600 aerial tankers, refuelers. I don't know how many of them are active, maybe half. And of those that are active, maybe half again can be expected to work. I would have to look at the numbers. But you like what I'm saying here is basically like the standard rule of thumb for mission capability inside the Air Force. And I'm probably being a bit generous too, saying that like 50% actually work, because for a lot of planes, it's much lower than that. Like for the F-45, full mission capability rates can go as low as like 40%, or even lower, like 25 in some cases. But the issue here is you have to realize about the US military, they don't actually have a plan for replacing all of these ancient like pieces of shit rust buckets, KC-135s with Pegasuses. Their plan for the future is to have like 25% of the refueling fleet be the KC-42 and like 75% be the KC-135. So I just want to underline here, the actual plan for the most modern military in the world is that in 20 years' time or 40 years' time, they will be flying 100-year-old planes. And again, we're not talking, well, this model is 100 years old. We're talking like, having a Humvee and then having a fucking M2 Browning that was first created before the Second World War, the First World War. Like an actual like First World War weapon that was used at the Somme, and just using it to fight. Yeah. Like that shit isn't done. Sure, you can keep the M2 Browning because it's a good design. But I mean, like using 100-year-old guns, it doesn't really happen. And using 100-year-old planes, it's like 10 times more stupid, because these things, they will fall out of the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
But
drone production, Knez was saying to us earlier about the drones, they can't replace the M9 Q9s or whatever.
I was mentioning that. I was mentioning that everything, like basically what people are doing, like there's three levels of cope. The first level of cope I already went over at the beginning of the show, which was like, America is an autarky, we'll do better. I debunked that. Sir Malcolm also debunked that. The second level of cope is that, well, everyone said Russia and Ukraine's going to be over quickly, but look at that war. It's been going on for 4+ years. This is going to be another long war. And my rebuttal to that is a very simple one. America is not Russia. Russia actually produces military equipment. America cannibalizes already existing, rotting 70, 80-year-old military equipment. All right? So it's not the same, man. The Reaper, all these other things, these are not being built, right? The rare earths are not being sent over from China or whatever to repair or rebuild or refurbish most of this stuff. So I think they're already starting to take deliveries of like these F-35s without radar systems, right? So it's gonna get more and more shitty. But that's like the second level of cope.
One thing about those, though, like the reason F-45s are being delivered without radars, it's actually not because of Chinese industrial sanctions. I see a lot of people get this wrong. It's actually because the U.S. Military industrial complex hasn't actually managed to build a production line or finish the design on the radars. So we're talking on a level where that makes it much worse, obviously, because they can't even get the radars built.
They're so dysfunctional within their own. Yeah.
Obviously, when they figure that shit out, they're not going to have materials for the radars. But like figuring that shit out is like 2 years into the future.
So those planes without radars can only be used for training now, right? But what are they training them on? Just getting shot out of the sky? Like, they're useless for anything else.
Who knows, man?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're using them to essentially keep the illusion going. Like the entire thing here is just that manned aviation and like the F-45 shoot down here. Mm-hmm. It wasn't really some sort of it didn't really come out of left field, because sure, you can actually make airplanes, if not like invisible to radars, because there's a lot of fuckery with that. Like it depends on what sort of radar band you're using. So you can make a plane invisible to a lot of radars, but not all of them, and some can be purpose built to see stealth planes fairly easily. But this can still have implications for, the fire control radars and so on. So it can make it harder to shoot it down with like a radar-seeking missile. But here's the thing. Planes are really hot. And the F-45 is one of the hottest planes that has ever been built, because that's one of the design limitations, by the way, where they built it around this incredibly hot engine. And now they have no design space left to add more systems, or even to operate the systems that are there in a safe manner, because they don't have enough space for coolant. Like they can't cool the plane down. And, according to the laws of thermodynamics, you can't actually destroy energy, right? Yeah. And so you can't hide heat. And you can't make heat go away. Mm-hmm. Like a refrigerator and so on, like it's cold inside the fridge because it's hot outside the fridge. That's how it works. And so what did the Iranians do? Well, they used the heat-seeking missile. Whoop-de-doo. Like, this is old technology. This is really old technology. And sure, there have been some design limitations. Like, heat-seeking missiles are vulnerable to flares unless you have a modern heat-seeking missile who has some sort of computer that remembers like the first heat signature they're tracking, and so can't really be distracted. And they have limited range, but you can use various systems to get around that and so on. So like making heat-seeking missiles that were capable of shooting down planes was a fairly small step from like 1970s technology. And look and behold, like countries like Russia and China, who knew they're going to be fighting stealth planes, have invested heavily in heat-seeking missiles, and so has Iran.
I heard that the plane didn't get shot down. It was just like the foot warmer for the pilot. It malfunctioned, and it kind of that led to it flying down.
The lint trap on the washing machine.
That's right. The lint trap on the F-35. Yeah, that was it.
They're just gonna come up with all this bullshit from now on, right? It's gonna be more and more of this bullshit, and then it's just gonna be like, oh, the Iranian video of the thing getting shot, that's just AI, man, AI generated, right? Yeah, so at this point, man, I think the main thing would have to be the economic hurt, right? Because they can just keep saying AI generated, AI generated, AI generated, right? I think the other thing would be like if they're actually suicidal enough to land Marines or whatever via parachute on Karg Island or whatever, right? Because the casualty count for that would be too high, basically. Too high.
They'll have to rename it Hamburger Island after that, because
Hamburger Island. Oh dear.
Yeah, I mean, the entire, it's actually really interesting. I mean, I have autism, so this is kind of, just like Greta Thunberg, by the way, if you want to make other comparisons to our great queen,
we love our autistic brothers and sisters.
Yeah, absolutely. But like,
nice.
For me, what's kind of funny about all of this stuff, it's just, you see how these bureaucracies and these social systems break down. Why? Because people are like, social pressure prevents them from doing like basic inductive reasoning or drawing even like deductive conclusions. Like, a deductive conclusion is like all birds are, or never mind, whatever. Like, it's like all
animals are mortal. Man is an animal. Socrates is a man.
Exactly,
Socrates is mortal. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I was trying to recall the one that Diogenes used to sort of trip up Socrates,
Plato.
but I couldn't remember it. Or Plato.
Man has like, I think man is like Man has no feathers. Man has 2 legs. I think it was something like that. And then he went to the marketplace,
he
took
brings...
a chicken, plucked out all the feathers, and he's like, "Oh, behold, a man."
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for bailing me out there.
No worries
from this sort of but brain glitch. But anyway, like even like very simple inductive reasoning or even like logically sound deductive reasoning, all of this is kind of blocked by people not wanting to speak out. So in Karg Island, for example, it's like, yes,
I'll just be back in around 5 minutes, gents. Just continue. I just got to take care of something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can take Karg Island, and it's not impossible in theory. There are fairly limited options for insertion. You can't really do an amphibious insertion because you would have to sail a boat into it into the Gulf. Or you could maybe, like the U.S. Marine Corps has these like landing vehicles that come with the like the Tripoli, the amphibious assault ship. You could maybe transport those to Kuwait. I don't think they have the capacity to do so, at least not on short notice. But I think that, like, even if you try to drive those boats from Kuwait to Karg Island, they would run out of fuel. Like, they don't have the range. So you basically have one choice, which is a helicopter or Osprey insertion. And then if you do that, you can't actually bring any sort of heavy equipment. So we are talking light infantry, people armed with M4 carbines. And yes, you could bring, like, I don't know, like an 80 millimeter mortar or whatever, like a small portable infantry mortar, stuff like that. I don't think they really have like World War II style pack howitzers and stuff like that anymore. But you could bring, you could bring like a shoulder fired anti-tank missile, for example, or a Stinger or something like that. But everything would have to be man-portable, and everything would have to fit on your helicopter. And the more equipment you bring on the helicopter, the less people you can bring. So you would be talking about inserting, a couple of hundred, maybe 400 Marines or airborne on Karg Island. The
And then
lightest of light infantry. Yeah.
and then you need 2,000 meters to establish a runway somewhere to land your logistics, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think you would be able to really land the logistics, because even with like really quick turnaround, I think Karg Island is within like tube artillery range. So
Yeah,
flying,
they get Swiss cheesed.
yeah, they're within tube artillery range, and they're definitely within like a short range ballistic missile range. So I mean, the turnaround for SRBM launch here on like the ETA from launch to arrival, it's probably down to like 50 seconds or something in some cases, a couple of minutes at most. But I really think like it's on the lower end of that spectrum. And so I mean, if you land a plane, you can't really get all the equipment out before a missile hits you, or at least, tries to hit you. So, like, yes, you can land light infantry, and in theory, they could actually like fight against Iranian infantry on the island. The issue is just that, like, if you want to do, like, if you want to send reinforcements, you're going to be sending them from Kuwait, and it's going to be pretty dangerous, and like the staging areas are going to be bombarded as well. But the Iranians have like a really short hop across the water to Karg Island, because they can just set up on the coast and they can hop over and be there in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, they want this to happen too. They look forward to doing this to the Americans if they could.
Yeah. And so like my point earlier about sort of inductive and deductive reasoning, it's like, okay, you would need, like the US Army manual says that in most cases of basically assaulting a position, you need 3 times the troops. And this is if it's not like a built-up urban area. But you generally need 3 times the troops compared to the defenders. And this is for situations where you are not at like a huge fire disadvantage, which these Marines would be. They would have at most like a handful of 80 millimeter mortars or whatever, and they would be dealing with multiple MLRS systems, like missile systems, like Katyushas and so on. They would be dealing with drones. They would be dealing with short-range ballistic missiles. They would be dealing with like hypersonic light vehicles, and they would be dealing with FPVs.
But they don't even think of any of this because it's cape shit, right? Like the psychotic
Yeah.
cape shit American mind. And I always think about, I wanted to ask you about that meme that you post where it's like, I think it's from like 1989 or 1991 or wherever, with the paper. They're throwing the paper at the end of, and the techno song. I was kind of wondering what that techno song is. I really like that song, but it reminds me of the Adam Curtis documentary, Hypernormalization, where they're like talking about the end of the USSR. And it's what's happening in America right now. The disconnect is crazy between like what is actually real and what they believe.
Yeah. This is definitely the end of the USSR. I'm seeing a lot of normies realize this. Like even someone like Richard Spencer, who is incredibly blue-pilled about like geopolitical manners. I mean, he's just saying it openly. Like he expects some sort of USSR style collapse of America in his lifetime. And I'm like, yeah, I think anyone who plans to live longer than 12 months can expect that in their lifetime.
Yeah, Spencer is like one of these guys, and especially a couple of these like quote unquote white nationalists, right? Their attitude towards the world is America is not just on a different continent, it's on a fucking different planet, right? So the rest of the world doesn't really affect us. But even this guy, Sir Malcolm, is just like, yeah, we're gonna see the implosion, right? And so that's why I think like this big cope that they're trying to sell everyone of like, oh, we're gonna be unaffected, and this is actually a 12D chess move by Trump to destroy the rest of the world's economies so that we can stand alone. I think this is it just fails immediately, right? Like no one's buying it. Like the farmers in America right now, I think Calvin Froedge, one of these like libertarian guys I love to follow. I think you follow him as well, but he recently had that thing out where like, okay, well, it's planting season and 25% of the fertilizer has not even been acquired. 25% of all farmers in America have not acquired the fertilizer that they use during planting season. So what they now have to do is they're like, okay, well, all the corn and all this other stuff that we normally grow, well, we probably have to grow soybeans instead. Well, enough, that's not a problem. We're just going to eat soybeans. Well, not so fast. Corn and corn-based products and all these other things, a large chunk of like the goyim in America, when they're eating their goy slop, man, that's all corn derived. So like,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can't have them eat soybeans. Like the Mesoamerican corn demons won't allow it.
And what was Trump posting a year ago now-ish? Tariffs go on international products. Farmers have fun. I love that post.
Yeah. This fucking guy, man. Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Trump is, it's actually like, he's way, way worse than Biden in terms of just how, I mean, he's like the belligerent drunk rather than the maudlin drunk that Biden was. Like, the fact that like the entire political system is so weak and so like debased that they can't really say, okay, well, Grandpa, it's time for you to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when a gallon of gas costs $8, I wonder how he's going to tie it to Biden's fault.
They're gonna say, well, it's because Gavin Newsom is a socialist, and it's like,
The
yeah, there
Democrats
is
are
a
collaborating with Iran. The Democrats, the demon rats, are collaborating with Iran, and they are like domestic terrorists, and that's why we have like all this shit happening. They might try that, Cope.
I think he
Yeah, I
did
mean,
say, yeah, he did post yesterday, like, now that this Iran thing's done, we can move back to the next enemy, the Democrats.
It's not gonna work, man. Sorry, but Iran ain't going anywhere, and your fucking gas prices are gonna hit $10 a gallon and higher. It is gonna happen.
yeah, at this point, partisan politics doesn't matter. If
It's
you're
meaningless.
thinking
Yeah.
about this in terms of like, oh, well, what will this do for the midterms? Oh man, like, what's this gonna do for our chances of winning the presidency in 2042?
Yeah.
My goyim in Sog, let me tell you something. Like, there won't be a presidential election in 2028.
Yeah.
My
There's-
Goyim Zog, I'm going to let you know, my goys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's not gonna be a presidential election. Like, the one in 2024 was the last one. Because, or, well, I'll modify that simply by saying, like, sure, there might be a thing called a presidential election, and someone might be elected who calls himself a president, but it's not going to be nearly the same office as anyone today recognizes.
One half of the electorate will not believe that to be true or respect it in any way.
Yeah, and also, like, the US, like, the future of the US is like a more dysfunctional European Union, where the central authorities have basically no power, other than sort of badgering or bullying smaller, weaker states to try to get them to go along. And also, like, the once you really get into, like, the federal government essentially going bankrupt, the reason for the states to actually follow along with what the federal government says completely goes away. I mean, the states follow the federal government because they get paid to do so.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
If the money disappears, they can just do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, this has been like the, this is kind of the cope I always got when I said, like, if you think about the structure of, like the U.S. Armed Forces, where you do have the state National Guards, and they have two commanders in chief. They have the state governor and they have the president. And we've never really tried to see what happens if the state governor gives one order and the president gives another. But whenever that situation happens, it's going to be really bad news.
Mm-hmm.
But people would then tell me, well, I mean, look at all the money that the National Guards get. Like they couldn't have all of these tanks and helicopters without money from the federal government. And yeah, like that's how these, what was originally like a vision of states having their own militaries, essentially, their own militias,
Mm-hmm.
how that was subverted by a centralizing authority. Remove the money and there is no cause for obedience anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If there's only one guy paying your salary, but there's two guys giving you orders, you're going to listen to the guy paying your salary.
Basically.
And then the guy giving you orders has to change the battlefield and take it to the airport and be like, this is about, we're going to put ICE agents in the airports because the Democrats won't fund, Homeland Security, whatever.
You got to pay
Yeah,
the
I
ICE
mean-
agents, bro. Same thing.
Yeah, it's so funny that like you have like to play along with what you said earlier about like the hypernormalization and everything being forever until it was no more and so on about the Soviet Union here. Like what do we have right now? We have like huge lines at American airports and like a lot of them or a bunch of them not having the staff. And you have imminent shutdowns of a lot of airlines in the US because they can't afford the fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And you already have long ass queues in most Asian countries to get fuel.
Yeah.
And now you're having shutdowns of gas stations spreading throughout Europe.
Yeah, basically. Slovenia has already, like one of these smaller Eastern European countries, I think the limit is 50 liters daily for private individuals, and I think it's like 200 liters per commercial entity or something like that, like small businesses, right? And like the 50 and the 200, it's gonna go lower, man. It's gonna go fucking lower than that.
and for you Americans in the audience, like a gallon is like 4 point something liters.
Yeah.
So we're talking like a daily ration of less than like 13 gallons.
Yeah.
And I mean, eventually, like it's going to be much harsher. Like during the oil crisis, you basically had it so you had these rations and you could only drive on like separate days. Like if you had an even license plate, you could only drive on these days. And if you had an odd numbered license plate, you could only use your car on other days. Mm-hmm. Like you're going to see stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's actually going to affect the quote-unquote richer countries very, very harshly, right? I mean, Bangladesh, like Dhaka City is like, what, 37, 38 million people, right? People use rickshaws, fucking like, these electric scooters. I mean, people there, they call them Teslas, right? That's like our joke. We call them Teslas, right? But, okay, hey, you have a fuel ration or whatever. I'm like, okay, man, I'll fucking walk. Like, people can fucking walk to Dhaka City, right? And like, if you're in Netherlands, okay, fine. Hey, I'll just bike to work or I'll fucking walk to work, right? But if you're in the United States of America with the triple K, right? If you're like a goyim who lives in the empire, man, I'm sorry, but your daily commute of 40 miles or whatever the fuck, back and front, 40 miles back and 40 miles front, like, you're not gonna like, okay, you're gonna bike that? You're gonna fucking walk that? What are you gonna do? Right? So, enough, don't worry, man. We'll not export our stuff. Okay, so if you don't export our stuff, That is literally the quickest way to kill whatever little standing you have on the global stage, right? Like at that point, if you do that, right? If you do that, at that point, you're just telling everyone Iran has won the war, right? Like right now, they're trying to do this cope of like, oh, we unsanctioned Iranian oil, but don't worry, it's only for 1 month, and we're actually winning. And oh, don't worry that the Russians are making hand over fist with these like high oil prices, right? But uh, we're gonna get the Iranian oil for ourselves. Newsflash, that's a lie, right? And then we're gonna figure out something else, and then any moment now the Mullah regime is gone. Like, buddy, that's nothing compared to you actually cutting off your export flows, right? Which I expect to happen. Like it's March right now, probably June, July at the latest. America is going to be like, okay, there's an export ban, and whatever oil we do dig up in like Texas or whatever, it's staying inside America, basically.
Yeah, and then they're gonna find out a couple of months later that, oh shit, now we don't have any diesel, like at all, because the countries we're exporting light sweet crude to,
Mm-hmm.
These are the countries that we import like heavy sour crude, and we need that for diesel. So, oh well, whoops! Like Trump was wrong again. But I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was chuckling to myself the other night about the people who were screeching about, they're going to all make us live in a pod and eat the bugs. Yeah, well, those people may end up being the ones who all have us living in a pod and eating grasshopper protein.
Bro, they're not gonna live in a fucking pod, man. They're just gonna fucking walk to work. That's what they're gonna do. They don't have to live in a fucking pod.
40 miles?
Yeah, they can walk 40 miles. What's wrong? They're fucking Americans. I thought they're an autarky, man. Oh, we're an autarky. We don't need the rest of the world. All right, bro.
It may solve the diabetes epidemic.
Trail of Tears, Ameriburger edition. God.
Yeah, I mean, it's the impact here on America is going to be so much worse than people really like. I see so much. The interesting thing now, I used to see a lot of cope like, okay, America won't really enter some sort of USSR style breakup. Now the cope is like, yeah, well, it won't be that bad. Or we're just transitioning from a republic to an empire. And it's like, no, you are not.
No, you're not, bro. No, you're not. You're not going to become a fucking autarky, bro. That's not what's happening. Go ahead.
Yeah, like, first of all, history doesn't repeat itself. It only rhymes. So you can't really say, well, because the Romans had like so and so many years of being a republic and so many years of being an empire. That doesn't mean that anyone who builds a fucking neoclassical building gets to enjoy the same lifespan. Because the Romans were working, they didn't have military bases or aircraft carriers across, the entire planet. They had a completely different sort of empire with completely different economic imperatives. But like you kind of have to realize, Dmitry Orlov wrote the book on this. I mean, he lived through the Soviet collapse, and he moved to America, and then in America he wrote a book. I think it's called Rethinking Collapse. Let me just double check that.
Yeah, no worries, bro. Go for it. He did that presentation for Long Now Foundation about 10, 15 years ago on it, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So you can actually find it there, yeah.
Yeah, it's Reinventing Collapse, actually.
Reinventing Collapse, yeah, okay.
I can definitely recommend that book. It's going to be extremely relevant for Americans in very short order. But the basic gist of Orlov's argument is that the Soviet Union had like 10 different layers of resiliency built into it.
Yeah.
That America lacks. I don't know if anyone's ever played a game like Metro 2043. But it's like this post-apocalyptic game where there's been like a nuclear war between America and Russia, and you're basically living in the metro tunnels of Moscow, like the last remaining Russians living in the subway tunnels. And towards the end of the game, like you're basically, you need to find, there's some sort of mutants or whatever that are threatening your metro stations. You need to go to like a military bunker and find some launch equipment so you can just fire a nuke at the nest of these guys.
Yeah.
But like as you're walking through this like old dilapidated like military base, it's been abandoned for like 30 years or so, or 25 years, and there's like weird mutated fungus and so on growing on the walls and shit. But like you're walking through it, and like all the equipment, it still works. Or if it's broken, it's like you just give it a kick and then it starts up. And so like your companion, as you're going through this like dungeon, is basically going like, oh, like now this brings me back when he sees all the equipment. Like it's got an old Soviet soul to it.
Yeah.
But like you are playing as a zoomer, so he kind of scoffs at you and goes like, oh, well, you wouldn't get it. Like you don't get how it's like to live in like the old Soviet Union where nothing works, and then you give it a kick and then it works forever. It's like, and like everything, you can just drop it from a plane or whatever and it still works. Or you just have to change the batteries or something. Well, I mean, it's not just that Soviet sort of industrial equipment and so on had like this robustness to it, but also like the social systems involved. So, for example, when a lot of people lost their jobs, they could go back to like their grandma's house and literally till the soil. Because a lot of people, like you still had functional sort of family ties. So you could go back to your grandparents and you could just plant like tomatoes and lettuce and so on using like the actual land that your grandparents owned. And so I can't remember the exact figures, but like during the worst of the crisis, maybe a quarter of calories were coming from people basically being part-time farmers, like office workers being part-time farmers. You can't do that in America today. I mean, for obvious reasons. First of all, people are spread out all over the country, and a lot of people have like zero social connections at all. And they don't know how to work the land. And even if they did, like people don't really have land to work.
Nope.
There was this really funny scene from the George Floyd riots where they took over the Chaz in Seattle, the Capitol Hill, like autonomous zone. And like they tried to do like a communal people's garden or whatever. It wasn't much to look at. Let's just say it like that. And sure, I think Americans will like pick this up because they have to. I mean, that's the fear of John Michael Greer. And again, this happened in World War II. You had all of these victory gardens. And so people were told, in order to help the war effort, you better learn how to farm, buddy. And they did. Like people living out in the suburbs, like they had like these, like in Sweden we call them kolonilotter, but that basically means like a separate piece of land that you drive out to or bike out to, that is like farmland that's divided up into small plots that people can work. And so people here in Sweden, I mean, a lot of boomers still do this. You could make a similar system in the US, and I think that, but it would take a while. Like in America, it would take like years until the system was up and running. In the Soviet Union, you could just slot into it. And then if you think about like the fact that the Soviet Union suffered a lot of damages from being a completely integrated industrial system. So like, you had iron ore being mined here and then transported to another Soviet Socialist Republic to be smelted into bars. And then you had the bars being made into railroad tracks in like Ukraine or whatever. And so products moved. It was like mini globalization over the Soviet Union.
Mhm.
And once that those systems broke down, like that caused a lot of economic disruption. Well, I mean, the scale of quote unquote globalization within the USSR was an order of magnitude less than the scale of globalization in America right now. If you had the COVID pandemic in the Soviet Union, you would just have been able to manufacture masks. You could just go to a factory that made something similar and say, well, you're making masks now, like the Chinese did.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
But the Americans they don't have enough of an industrial base to do anything like this.
No. And the thing is, right, like all the Soviet factories and these other things, right, like one of the things that happened in the 1990s was when the West was looting and raping the Soviet Union, they used to go to the factories and it was like, okay, well, this is so inefficient, man. Well, look, there's so much space over here. We can just get rid of these 5 or 6 things over there. And, why don't we just optimize the space? But what they fail to realize is that the Soviet Union, after getting invaded by the Germans, it developed a very, very specific, like, civic ideal with regard to like, okay, well, we need to always have like this distributed network. And not only that, we need to always have our factories have multiple purposes with regard to like, okay, well, one moment we're producing this, but then several weeks and months later, we should be able to produce X, Y, and Z instead, right? You don't have that in America, Sir Malcolm. The factories are abandoned and they are left to rot. And in terms of like all these guys, they are like, okay, well, we're gonna now become an empire. Buddy, you already live in the ruins, man. Go to Detroit, go to Chicago, go to these places.
They
Right?
ignored
Like,
one of the central tenets of capitalism, as the Wu-Tang Clan said. You have to diversify your bonds. Diversify.
no, but like it's fucking stupid because like the factories in America are like quote unquote maximally optimized. And again, maximal optimization means no slack, means completely brittle, means one compound shock and you're dead, right? And that's why there's so many fucking ruins. Like, okay, well, we're gonna start up the factory. Okay, in 50 years, sure, you can start it up in 50 years, right?
And it
But
also
like
means
there's no ability. Like I shared something around, right? I shared it on the Telegram group. I shared it on Zitter as well. But like there's this like a list of all these things, right? And a guy was making the comment, Mr. Vix. Pretty much 90% of water-resistant materials you find in everyday life all around you is made of oil. EVs cannot replace that, right? And then Tracy Schuchert says, yeah, here is a list of just 160 products made from oil and gas from over 6,000 products. Like, America is not the Soviet Union. America is not like, okay, well, this place, 50 years ago, it used to make crayons, right? We're going to now tweak it around so that instead of making fucking crayons, it's going to make like glycerine instead, or like fucking golf balls, or like fucking glue. It doesn't have that ability, man. Like, the factory was maximally optimized. The place was looted, right? Like, America is just like, oh yeah, we're so blessed, man. We got the resources of an entire continent. Yeah. And you still fucked it up. So what does that say about America, man?
they put all the risk into the capitalization and put it all, like I was thinking about what you were saying, Malcolm, last time about you have some sympathy for the weapons development companies and how you're in a surprise place about that. And I was thinking about that, like American companies get a lot of hate and a lot of anger is directed at them because they make a lot of money, but the government also externalizes all the risk of what you guys are just saying to them, and they get the benefit of all that, but they also bear all the risk of all the loss. So why should they extend themselves?
I have no quarrel. I have no quarrel with the American ruling class. My animosity is only towards the American people. But continue, Sir Matthew.
Yeah, I mean the thing about the defense industry in particular is I think that the defense industry is really I mean, it's kind of a piece with the bigger problem in the West, because yes, the primes like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, and Boeing, in theory, like they make a lot of money if you don't look that much at the fine print. Like what's actually happening now is that a lot of them are just walking away from like fixed price contracts, for example. So the US puts out a competitive bid, like we want a company to build our next generation fighter jet plane. And Boeing and Lockheed just looks at that and goes, yeah, sorry, we're not interested. Why? Because the government is signaling that they aren't going to pay you what it actually costs to develop and build that plane. They're going to try to stick you and just take the, just say, well, we had our top man say it costs only like 50 billion to build this plane or develop this plane. And you're saying it's 80 billion. Well, you have to pay the difference. And like at that point, when it just becomes this competitive game of who can fuck over who, actually making defense contract, like that stuff doesn't become that interesting. And if you think about like the immediate sort of aftermath of the Ukraine war dragging on, there were a lot of congressional hearings about like, why can't we make artillery shells? And the defense companies just said, we are willing to make artillery shells if you pay us what it costs to open a factory. And you pay us in a predictable way, so none of us actually invest like a couple of $1 billion. And then a year later you go, oh, well, we don't really need them anymore, or the war ended or whatever. Like, give us the money it's going to cost us, and we will do this stuff. And then, like, that was the pain point, because, like, no, sorry, we would like to pay you maybe $400 million for your 2 billion factory, and then say, well, you're going to make so much money making artillery shells, so in 10 years, think of how rich you'll be. And everyone's like, no, thanks, I'm not falling for that, sorry. So it wasn't really even a technical issue at the end of the day. Yes, there are like a lot of bottlenecks in the pipeline in terms of how can we find more people who actually know how to make, or who we can at least teach how to make, like an iron bomb or a 155 millimeter artillery shell. But like the real tug of war was just the company saying, if you want us to do this, open a factory, it's going to cost X amount of money. Are you willing to pay it? And the government say, no, we can pay 40% of X. Okay, well, it costs us 100% of X. So you're asking for charity here. And we can't do it. We'd go bankrupt. Oh, well, okay, 43% of X. How's that sound? Like, no, we need 100%. Okay, well, we'll get back to you. So that's the reality for the prime contractors. And yes, the CEO of Lockheed Martin makes a lot of money. Well, I mean, as opposed to like who in the American elite? I mean, look at how much money fucking Charlie Kirk made going like, have you thought about this, liberal? Like, he was a multi-millionaire. Like, everyone who is well connected in the American system makes a lot of money. So you can't really say, well, Lockheed Martin, they're like these string pullers from behind the scenes because the CEO has this annual salary of like $50 million or whatever. Yeah, well, I mean, well-connected podcasters who get like sinecures in the government get that salary, or at least they steal that amount of money from the public purse. But what you really have to realize, though, is that the level below the prime contractors, the big five, that shit is just cannibal city. That shit is like, you don't get paid. Because the government doesn't want to pay the primes what it costs to actually build a plane. The primes, in order to pay money, has to steal that money from the subcontractors. So they tell a subcontractor, and they have like this huge leverage, because it's like, okay, if you don't make airplane components for Boeing or Lockheed Martin, who else are you going to make it for? The Chinese? Sorry, you're going to go to jail if you try. So it's us or nothing.
Am I high, or do I remember Trump saying it was unpatriotic of them not to bid on procurements?
Yeah. I think he said that, yes. And That's the attitude. Like, we're not going to pay you what it costs, but we're going to call you mean names otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But like for the subcontractors, this just means theft. Like it means you build a component, you send it to Boeing, and you have to basically send a repo man to Boeing to actually get paid. Because
Yeah.
Boeing will just straight up like not pay you for a year.
Mm-hmm.
But
And so again,
so Malcolm, is it like is the government not capable to pay these guys, or like they can but they're not?
they're not capable for, I think, two reasons. I mean, there's one practical reason here, which is if you think about like all of the government bureaucracies in the US, like they are incredibly sclerotic. But what a lot of people really don't pay enough attention to is just the fact that like the budgeting process in the US has completely broken down.
Yeah, exactly.
The US Congress no longer passes budgets. It only passes what's called like they have a bunch of like different terms.
Continuing resolution. They call it continuing resolution.
The continuing resolution is like the most common, where it's like instead of doing like the formal budgeting process, which is too involved, they just say, well, we're going to fund things at the previous level. So we're just going to use the budget from last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then
it sounds like low time preference to me.
It's low time preference, but it's also kind of like, you have clogged arteries or whatever. Like there's not enough throughput in the system. So basically, like in a normal, in China or in Russia, let's say you want to have more tanks. What happens is that the Duma passes a budget where they say, because we need more tanks, we are giving this tank factory $500 million or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they pass that budget into law. The money is appropriated, and the tank factory gets $500 million to build tanks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In the US, it doesn't work like that. It's like there is no like budgeting process. It's like, because we paid $200 million to this part of the military 3 years ago, and we've been using continuing resolutions, we are going to continue to pay $200 million because we can't make a budget. And then what happens is that like you get like these baked in programs. Like we've already said that we're not going to build, like we've abandoned the M10 Booker tank or whatever. But because like money for the M10 Booker was included in the budget 4 years ago and you're still using it, like you have to do some fucking like bureaucratic trickery in order to move that money like technically in an illegal way to pay for something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give a concrete example of just how dysfunctional this is. When Trump announced his Trump-class battleship,
yeah,
which was supposed to have like this rail gun that doesn't exist and shit like that, and like laser batteries that don't exist either.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote an unheard article about it, but like he never went through an appropriation process for it. So there's no money to build a ship.
Mm-hmm.
There's no money at all to build a ship. There's not even any money to produce the schematics.
Mm-hmm.
So what they probably did is they had some fucking intern at the Pentagon ask Grok to make a render and like just come up with something. Mm-hmm. Because like if you're actually going to have a schematic that a shipyard can use, you need to like you need professionals to sit down and actually like draw it up.
Mm-hmm.
You can't build a Titanic by having a 15-year-old just sort of draw a crayon drawing of a ship and like, oh, here's the smokestacks and here's some lifeboats. No, you have to look at like the structural integrity and like the engine and all of that crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there wasn't any money for that.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, like this ship is never going to be built, or if it's going to be built, like the way that Trump is going to fund it is he's going to move money from the illegal slush fund he set up, where after basically appropriating Venezuela's oil, or basically saying, well, you can sell it if you let us deal with the proceeds. Like he's going to move money from Venezuelan oil sales to a slush fund in Bahrain, and then he's going to pay people in the U.S. at some naval design bureau under the table from this illegal money that he's stashed away in Bahrain.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's going to use the illegal money he stashed away from the peace
board, Board of Peace.
The Board of Peace.
Yeah.
Or he's going to try to use like money collected by the tariffs that he then squirrels away in an illegal slush fund.
Mm-hmm.
This is not how a government can function in the long run. Like you can't do these illegal slush funds and just pay people under the table. You need to have a formal process.
Mm-hmm.
But the US is no longer capable of it.
Yeah. What a shit show. Speaking of shit shows, 52 minutes ago, Lindsey Graham on Iran's Karg Island. We've done Iwo Jima. We can do this. Sir Malcolm, what do you say to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, these people are just completely out of touch. I mean, Lindsey Graham is a fucking satanic sodomite, and when people say, well, in Iran, they throw the gays off of buildings, it's like, why can't we do that here? I mean, like, it would improve America if they actually could throw Lindsey Graham off a building for the crime of sodomy or whatever. But, I mean, the U.S. took like 40,000 casualties or whatever on Iwo Jima, which is a very small island. And Iwo Jima is a remote island. Iwo Jima was not within like firing range of Japanese tube artillery on the mainland.
Yeah.
So okay. So 40,000 casualties. Let us consult Google here.
Yeah.
What is the size of the U.S. Marine Corps? The U.S. Marine Corps has around 169,000 active duty members.
Yeah.
And think about these. Active duty members in the Marine Corps, that includes people who refill, I don't know, like the vending machines on the USS Tripoli. It includes cooks. It includes probably lawyers, janitors, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's be incredibly generous here. Let's be super generous and say that 40% of this, of the U.S. Marine Corps are trigger pullers. Like people who actually walk around in battlefield-free Karg Island and blow up MCOMs. Okay, yeah. 40% of the Marine Corps. That's like
65,000-70,000.
Yeah, exactly. It's like in the 60,000 range. If you take 30,000 casualties, that's half the fucking Marine Corps dead or out of action. For one piece of shit island.
Oh, yeah.
That's, I'm looking at it here. It's a third the size of Manhattan, about 8.5 square miles, 22 kilometers, Karg Island.
Yeah, and like, again, you can't really even sort of explain what the strategic goal of taking Karg Island is. It's like, the underpants gnomes gathering underpants. Like here we have the Karg Island gnomes. Like we take Karg Island, we win the war. I mean, the theory is,
I think we have to go into the Cape shit mindset, and they think that it's like connected to, it's very important to Iranian oil production. So if we take that, choke point.
Yeah, but again, like the Iranians have other terminals, number one. And number two, if you really wanted to, like, here's the thing. If you really wanted to constrain Iranian oil exports, you could just set up a fucking blockade. That's something the US Navy can easily do because the US Navy has surface competence out on the high seas. They could just have an Arleigh Burke interdict every fucking Iranian oil tanker, but they can't do that because number one, that will make China really mad at them, and number two, if they do that, China is going to go to like an American refinery and say, we're going to buy the oil and we're going to pay more than the Americans. And at that point, the Americans are going to chimp out because prices at the pump are going to rise by another 25 cents or whatever. So like the idea is you hold that thing ransom, but what's going to happen is you either fail to take it or the Iranians destroy it or the Iranians kill the landing force. And at that point, like, how are you going to escalate?
You can't because you've just lost the fucking Marine Corps. So you can't even do like a second invasion if you take 30,000 casualties or whatever.
Yeah, like we are at the Steiner's counterattack. But like the thing is though, the US can't take 30,000 casualties on Kharg Island. That is completely impossible because the US has no ability to insert 40,000 troops on Kharg Island. They can do helicopter insertions of like a couple of hundred people at a time.
Yeah.
But they will be doing those helicopter insertions into FPV drones, into short-range ballistic missiles, into, Chinese satellites giving real-time data. Like the moment they set down, they're on like a 90-second countdown until the first short-range ballistic missile hits. So, I mean, you're not going to see more than like 1,000 casualties on Kharg or whatever if they try to do it, I think, because the logistics of this stuff, like they don't work. And like the private, like the flagship of the U.S. Navy, lest we forget, the fucking flagship of the U.S. Navy, the much vaunted, like super modern, next generation supercarrier, the USS Gerald Ford.
Yeah.
It's out of action for 20 months. It took so much washing machine combat damage that it's going to be out of action for 2 years.
Exactly, yeah.
The official timeline here is 14 months. And if you want to be generous to the U.S. Navy, you only multiply the official timelines by 100%.
Some patriots on that boat clogged it up with T-shirts, the septic system.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, or it could be that people are just like completely. I mean, you should never underestimate how dysfunctional sailors and soldiers can be. Like, they could just do that because they fought, like, out of sight, out of mind. But, like, regardless of whether it was sabotage or enemy action, like, you can't even deploy the pride of the fleet for more than, 2 weeks before it catches fire and has to go back and get repaired for 2 years.
So Malcolm, don't worry. Here's the plan. We're going to use the base that obviously hasn't been destroyed in Kuwait, right? We're going to fly some helicopters and we're going to somehow miraculously evade all the Chinese satellites and we're going to parachute all the Marines on Kharg Island, a couple dozen at a time. And obviously the Iranians have no landmines and they have no drones waiting for us there because they're a bunch of brown savages.
And the Americans have the A-10 Labrador Skeptic in the clouds above.
Yeah. The flying boomer, as Sarnosad put it, which is pretty good. Like the A-10 is the boomer personified, like obsolete, parasitic, completely useless in a real fight, and sort of living in a universe that never really existed and hasn't at least existed since the 80s. If the A-10 could talk, it would do something like, just give your boss a firm handshake. That's what I did when I got my job.
Oh, man.
Or stop eating so many avocado toasts and you can afford your house.
Mhm.
That's what I did. Or,
Mhm.
when I bought a car, I bought it for $100 and it didn't have electric, window elevators or whatever. Like I had to turn the crank to lower the window, which you stupid zoomers, you don't understand how that's like. So I paid $100 for my car, and you can too if you didn't need like the newest newfangled technologies. You could play Minecraft while you were driving. Like it. That's the A10 personified, like just completely out of touch.
Steelman to me the its capabilities, because I'm not familiar with the plane.
I mean, the plane is built around like this rotary cannon, like this 40mm cannon firing depleted uranium rounds. If you shoot it, if you shoot a 40mm cannon on the top of a tank where the armor is weak, that tank is going to get fucked up. You know what else you can do though to fuck up a tank from above? You can just tape a piece of shit like Soviet thermobaric, or not thermobaric, but like tandem warhead from some Afghani like forgotten warehouse in the 70s. Tape that shit to a Chinese like toy drone, and use your PlayStation 3 controller to fly that drone with the tandem warhead on top of the tank. Congrats. You have an even better system. Like the point of the A10 originally, and I think I mentioned this earlier, but it was basically like once World War III starts between the Soviet Union and the US in Central Europe, the Soviets are going to use their like 10,000 tanks, and they're going to flow through the Fulda Gap like the orcs at Minas Tirith or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And then you use the A10 basically to fly them and just brrrt at like all of these tanks driving in single file on the road, and you blow them up. You blow up like 3 tanks before the plane gets shot down. Because the Air Force thought that, like, 2 weeks into the conflict, we're not going to have A-10s anymore because they're all going to be destroyed because they like do this close combat thing. Otherwise, the A-10 is really good if you're fighting in Afghanistan against people who only have AK-47s. Because then, like your Marine Corps or whatever can just call it in. There's only like a 10% chance that the A-10 kills all the Marines instead of the Taliban. Because he can't tell the difference. But like if 90% of the time it works 100% of the time, and then you just blow up some Taliban with AK-47s. I mean, I think that like games like Call of Duty, and I'm thinking in particular of like that AC-130 level where it's like, oh, good job, I see lots of little pieces down there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like that shit just destroyed the brains of Western people. And it's so telling if you think about the Top Gun. Like the Top Gun series is like Oswald Spengler would have a fucking field day with that shit. Because Top Gun 1, it's Tom Cruise flying pretty new at the time, like 20 years old or whatever, F-15 or F-14 rather, I think. Like F-14 Tomcat, I think it's the plane that he's using. And then Top Gun 2, it's Tom Cruise, but he's just fucking old and washed up, and he's still flying the F-14 in the year of our Lord 2024 or wherever. Like imagine that shit. Like imagine just having a conception of military superiority where it's like you could just do the same thing, like the Top Gun 1, the Red Baron over World War 1, Top Gun 2, the Red Baron of World War II, Top Gun 3, the Red Baron in Vietnam, and he's still like the same guy, still flying the same fucking wooden biplane.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But to
Like
make
that.
the movies more believable, they did have to keep up with Iranian air defense, right? Like Tom Cruise gets shot down and behind enemy lines and has to be rescued or whatever. So it's almost
but it's like if you thought about, like, if we had a culture that was actually dynamic and hadn't spent all of its energy, like obviously Top Gun 2 would be about like a drone commander or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the future.
Mm-hmm.
in his tank in Arizona.
Yeah, but like now it's just it's just like this rehash of a rehash. It's just senility. It's the same guy flying the same plane, even though like this stuff stopped being relevant 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there are historical precedents. Like if you think about like the Arthurian myth, like the King Arthur at Camelot and so on. And this is kind of a stalking horse for me. Because there have been some games like the Sierra Adventure games, where it's like the Legend of Camelot or whatever, and they kind of try to run with the legend, but they still try to make it like quote unquote historical.
Mm-hmm.
So like Camelot is kind of aware of, the Roman Empire having fallen, and he has like this newfangled thing, which is like all the range, which is called chainmail.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has the best chainmail in all of Northern Europe. And it's like, yeah, dude, like chainmail is so cool. That's what all the knights use. Because that was the technology back then.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual Arthurian myth that people are familiar with is just like this insanely stupid like propaganda cope by German knights, where it's like the gunpowder has dominated the battlefield for 200 years, and like the actual knight as a social class is just disappearing. Because sure, like you can still have like noble officers like the Junkers in Prussia,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not the same thing. Like knights used to be a specific social class, like a fairly significant one.
Mm-hmm.
That their claim to fame was like, we are the people who do the fighting. So if you think about something like Crusader Kings, the third game, you have two types of infantry or two types of like military. You have the levies, which are like someone going out and grabbing a random peasant and putting like an improvised weapon in their hands. And levies are kind of really cheap, and you don't really pay for them. The only thing that happens is that a lot of levies die, like your farming efficiency goes down, because these are just farmers that you sort of conscript into service. But then you have the super expensive actual retinues. And retinues are essentially like knights.
Mm-hmm.
Retinues are professional soldiers who have to pay for their own equipment, and that equipment is much, much better than what like the levies have.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a reason for existing, which is, without like us professional soldiers, like you aren't going to win wars. And so you have to make sure that your taxation system and so on is robust enough to support paying for all of these professionals who belong to a sort of specific social class, can lay claim to, a higher living standard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, the Arthurian legend comes into being in like its modern form at a time where the actual meta of warfare has gone from Crusader Kings 2 or 3 back to like levies are awesome. You know how you win a war? You just raise a levy and you stick, instead of like an improvised like Gordon dog or like a flail or whatever, you give him a fucking gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Congrats. like a gun is so great because like it works regardless of how strong or weak the user is. You don't have to train your entire life to be able to use a gun. You can train for a week, and you no longer need like these special snowflakes who have their like jousting tournaments or whatever. You can just get like random mooks and give them guns or pikes. And at that point, the cope that develops among like the last remaining knights before they're swept away by history is like, well, you know, real knights, we used to ride around the countryside and pick up swords from, you know, ladies living in lakes, and we used to slay dragons, and we used to have honor, and we had like camaraderie and chivalry, unlike these grubby peasants who just, you know, loot and rape and shoot their guns. Like back in the day, things were awesome. But of course, back in the day, like the nice thing about being a knight was that you got to loot and rape as much as you wanted. And if you really want to read about this, there's a really good book named German Knighthood. Let me just check the title.
Yeah, go for it.
Where the search function is so bad nowadays on
While you search for that, can I just pose a question, and Anaf, maybe you can answer this? Like, are pilots taking more damage in this? Like, are those plane pilots getting shot down more per rate per day or whatever?
Yeah, they are.
probably. Okay. The book is German Knighthood 1050 to 1300 by Benjamin Arnold. You can get it from LibGen, and I really recommend it because even though this is like an earlier version of like German knights were actually serfs. This is something not a lot of people know, but like they were just as much serfs as peasants were. So you weren't actually free. You were an unfree knight, but these were still being unfree at that point. Being a serf knight was essentially like, you know, working for Google and having a non-compete clause. Like you weren't allowed to move. You weren't allowed to change employers or whatever. But like in exchange, you expected to your employee, like your liege lord, to like give you a lot of cool stuff. Like you were allowed to loot and pillage and have duels, and you were supposed to get so and so much land that you could work. So it was a pretty interesting system. But like this system collapses for economic and like basically social reasons. Like the liege lords run out of land, and military changes means that like they don't really need as many knights anymore, and the knights don't like it at all. But that is basically like Top Gun is just the same cope for pilots and for like an obsolete American military. Like Top Gun is the Legend of Camelot.
Yeah, like I don't know if you're on Substack or not, but like a lot of these like copes about like, you know, look at how amazing we're doing with this air campaign, and oh my gosh, watch this JASM do this, and you know, Israel and America is kicking the ass of Iran. And I'm like, buddy, you're hitting random things in the desert. It's decoys, paintings, and all this other crap. And I don't know what you're talking about, right? And at this point, Sir Malcolm, it's just a psychological thing, right? And I think we talked about Scarg Island. We talked about the economic thing. Another thing that's probably just going to break it, I think, would just be like, you know, let's say a couple of weeks from now, Trump just withdraws and says, okay, we've won, it's victory or whatever, right? And the Iranians are just like, okay, well, $2 million a ship, and oh, this blockade's going to stay or whatever. I think that would also do it as well, right? But it's all like, you know, it's all just like fantasizing about the past. That's all they got left, right? Like I was talking to this guy on Substack, and I think some of us here who are speakers, they know who I'm talking about. But like, this guy was saying that, well, look, democracies are so good at waging war, right? Like, I'm like, what? I mean, what are you talking about, right? Like, in the post-World War II climate, right? What are the big wars that you see? Well, the big wars that you see are the decolonization of Africa and these Asian conflicts and all these other things, right? Who won these wars, right? It's not like America, France, United Kingdom. No, all of those guys, they used obsolete, like, okay, let's try and fight these conflicts like we did World War I and World War II, and they get their ass kicked over and over again by the Algerians, by all these like Vietnamese, by like everyone else, and it's like, well, oh man, we weren't trying. If we tried harder, and if we had like more fighter jets or whatever the fuck, we could have won. No, that's false, right? Algeria had like 2 million Pied Noirs, right? They lived there for like almost 150, 200 years. They got displaced and sent back to fucking Europe, man, right? So like the latter half of the 20th century completely debunks this thesis, right? And so it's a complete like breakdown, the psychological, sociological breakdown of a civilization, and it's just like they're just living in the past. They're just saying crap that's empirically false. Like you can empirically debunk what they're saying, right? And it's just like, well, look, man, look at our kill-death ratio, right? It's like, okay, bro, you continue focusing on that crap.
Sure enough, if it's the person I think you're thinking, I'm jumbling my words here. If it's the guy I think you're thinking
Yeah,
of,
it's that guy, man. It's that guy.
it's
Yeah.
that guy. Yeah. If is his argument that because Ukraine still slogs on and America maintains the presence in the Persian Gulf to a limited degree, and China hasn't moved on Taiwan, thus Western power remains, right?
I
That's
mean,
not quite his argument. That's not quite his argument. But like, if I'm gonna be steel manning his position, that's like a part of what he would say with regard to like like what Sir Malcolm said on the previous show. Oh, there's a lot of ruin in the nation, right? So he's one of these guys who's just like, oh, America will collapse 50 years from now or whatever, right? But like my argument to him has always been that, like whether it's the sewage system or like the fucking pond algae or whatever. Like, if you notice the problem, that means the problem has already happened for like 47 days or whatever the fuck, right?
yeah,
So the collapse, yeah. So there you
yeah, and regarding the thing about democracies being so much better at war, I mean, I only have one thing to say.
That's a nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
go. That's argument center. I made it the fuck up.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
it's just made up. It's straight up just made up.
The largest, bro, like the largest decolonization on the planet happened due to fucking terrorists and guerrillas. By this metric of like, war fighting, okay, which fighting force is the most Clausewitzian in human history that we have like actual empirical evidence of? Well, it's fucking terrorists in Africa, the Middle East, like the Pacific, etc., etc. That's the most fucking those are the most fucking Clausewitzian, right? Because whether it's like Algeria or like fucking Nigeria and all these other places, or like fucking Rhodesia, right? Okay, who met all their aims rather? Who met all their war objectives? Who got there? Who got there? Was it the fucking like French and the British and the Americans? No, it's these guys. So by his argument, right? Okay, democracies? No, fucking terrorists, man. that's the winner of the latter half of the 20th century, right? So it's just funny, man. Like you notice their copes, right? You notice their copes, but like you laugh at it after a while. United Kingdom, telegraph.co.uk. The United Kingdom has no defenses against Iranian ballistic missiles. Shocked Pikachu face, Sir Malcolm. The vassals can't do anything. Yeah. Iran's not gonna go for white peace, right? Like, if this thing was like over in like a few days, Iran would have gone for a white peace. I think at this point, Iran's gonna end this as like the new regional power of the region, right? and they're just gonna be like, okay, whatever, we'll do whatever the fuck we want, right? We'll toll you like in Chinese yuan and whatever the fuck, and all of you fucking democracies, yeah, you can talk about how amazing democracies are at warfare or whatever. You pay us the tolls, otherwise you starve to death, right? So.
Yeah, and again, like I don't really think that. I think that like the actual shooting phase of this war, it is going to wind down like naturally in the not too distant future. Because like people say stuff like, "Oh well, we can do a ground invasion of Iran," and it's like, no, actually, you can't. The only thing that the US no longer has any sort of sea lift capacity, like the actual sea lift ships. If you want to be generous, you could call them like archaeotech, like in Warhammer 40k, where it's like nobody understands how these ancient machines work. But like in Warhammer 40k, a piece being archaeotech, that means it's really cool. It's like a Volkite blaster or something, like, or you know, an abominable intelligence. Well, that's not really cool. It's probably going to kill you. But like old technology in Warhammer 40k, it's like super impressive. That's not how it works in the US of A, because the archaeotech of the military like logistics ships, it's like these are engines that haven't been produced and like are of a different technological standard than any engine on any ship that's in use today. And so trying to get spare parts for it is like trying to get spare parts for your broken typewriter. Oh shit, it turns out that like there are no companies making typewriters and the last one went bankrupt like 60 years ago. Whoops.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, Zoomers can't actually operate those ships because Zoomers aren't being taught in like sailor school how to use these old like antiquated piece of shit engines, and the ships don't work. And so what that means is if you want to move military equipment over to the Middle East, first of all, your total logistical throughput is going to be, you know, 1/100th of what the US could do when it still had ships.
Yeah, basically 2 orders of magnitude less.
Yeah. And also, you can't move tanks on planes. You can, in theory, move an Abrams on a specific one of the strategic airlifters. I think it's like the C5.
Yeah.
But there's the thing. A tank, if you actually put it on the plane is going to break. Like it's going to fall out of the sky after a couple of trips. Because this is only like technically possible. But the tank weighs so much, a single one weighs so much that doing this trip basically shortens the lifespan of the plane by a lot. And guess what? There's like 60 tanks in a brigade, in a single brigade. And you would need, for Iran, you would need, people have like different kinds of math here where it's like, let's assume that Iran, this country with a shit ton of mountains and like a massive defender's advantage in a new technological paradigm, let's assume it's like the desert of Iraq.
Yeah.
And if you do, you only need 60 divisions. Well, I mean, I don't know how many divisions you actually need, but it's like 200 or something, probably. Like, if we're being honest. How many divisions can the US put, like, in theory, if we ignore the fact that divisions can't fucking teleport? How many divisions did the US actually move to the Middle East using doom-free Martian teleportation technology? 6.
Yeah.
How many could they do if they drafted every fucking Zoomer in America that isn't gay or retarded or, you know, obese? I don't know, 15 maybe?
Yeah.
And that's if you want to do like, okay, for just to move them, you would need 6 months. Just to create a system like for a draft, you would need a year. Just to train these people after, you would need another year. So we're talking like a timeline for getting 10% of the troops you would need with no logistical tail, because that tail doesn't exist. Like the US could not actually keep 20 or 22 divisions in the field. Like there's no trucks to move the fuel, bro. But even if you did that, like, okay, it would be like almost a 3-year timeline before these things would be ready.
Yeah. And you're moving it closer to Iran, and Iran's like, hey, we got some nice things moving back there. Hey, China bros, can I get some high visual images for those things? Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Let me count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 57. All right, hit them with a bunch of drones.
Even moving an armor brigade, because like an armor brigade, I think it's 60 tanks. I could be wrong. I don't have the numbers in my head, but it's something like that. Like 60 Abrams. You would need support vehicles.
Yeah.
You would need a shit ton of spare parts and fuel and so on. Yeah. Using airlift, even moving a single brigade, if you tossed like 100% of your airlift capability, and if you did like around the clock flights, at which point like the planes are straight up just going to crash into the ocean if you try to subject them to that. But if you did that, like you would be talking like 2 weeks at least of staging that shit in Kuwait. And everyone would be able to see it. So those tanks would be eating a shitload of short-range ballistic missiles.
Yeah.
And that's just one brigade. That's like 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 at most people. You would need 2 weeks, and they would all get destroyed when you try to stage them at some base. So you can't really do like ground combat. Like the taking Karg Island, that is just, you know, the scene from Downfall where Hitler is like, well, Steiner's attack will clean it all up. Mein Cheeto, I'm sorry, but Steiner, he didn't attack.
Mein Cheeto?
Yeah, like, that's just a conversation they're going to have, and Trump is going to freak the fuck out. Like, das war ein Befehl. Steiner angriff war Befehl. And it's like, yeah, well, whatever, Cheeto. So Karg, it's just Cape shit. Like, that is not a military operation. That is a Cape shit, like, operation. It only exists because boomers love their Cape shit, and the point of the military is to deliver Cape shit. It's not to win tactical or strategic victories. But apart from that, you can't really do much more on the ground. You could do fucking Charge of the Light Brigade, where all of the light infantry gets blown up in 4K, and you see like some Shaniqua from Queens praying to, I don't know what Americans pray to, Mammon, Sog, Ronald McDonald or whatever. As the FPV drone zeroes in. That's not going to be great for morale. And after that, you can't really do it again.
They pray to the Hamburglar, if I'm not mistaken.
The Hamburglar.
Exactly. Yeah, white Americans, you know, these hardworking, you know, conscientious Americans, they pray to Ronald McDonald, but the blacks, they pray to the Hamburglar, because that's those are the race relations in late South America.
Yeah,
but
I think you may be hitting on a strong sociological point there, Malcolm. This may be an American affairs essay in itself.
Yes, exactly.
Oh dear.
But like the air campaign, yes, you can continue, but like the US is running out of JASSMs. I think that like and this is another thing people don't realize. This is the last war. This is the last war America is fighting. And there's not even a pretense of it being any other way. Like,
yeah.
The US has burned through. I saw this Will Shriver post, and you should probably take that with a grain of salt. But I mean, that guy is mostly reasonable. And he did this estimation where it's like, oh, well, they fired off like 50% of the pre-war JASSM inventory.
So 3,000 something. So they've used up 1,500 or so in like 3 weeks.
And the JASSM, for people who aren't aware, that's the premier American air-launched cruise missile.
Yeah.
It's the one sort of pinpoint standoff weapon you can put on an airplane.
Yeah.
And fire it off outside the range of most SAMs.
Yeah, 500, 600 miles. And I think most SAM systems are like 300, 400 miles. So just outside.
So if you don't have JASSMs, you aren't actually fighting against anyone who has any sort of AD. Because you just die.
Yeah, you have to get closer. And you get shot down, basically.
And all of this, like, harm, like this American conception of suppression of air defense, like SEAD, like the wild weasels who are ancient like everything else in the fucking military, and fire these obsolete, like, anti-radiation missiles. Like, if you try to do SEAD against China, they make all the microwaves in the world, buddy. And these same missiles were defeated by the Serbs, putting microwave ovens out in fields.
Yeah. Okay, breaking news. Orange Cheeto says, and this is thanks to good Sir Tony, the Orange Cheeto moves the following. I don't want to be the first to declare a ceasefire. You don't declare a ceasefire when you are literally obliterating the other side. Drumpf. All right, Sir Malcolm, what do you say to that?
Well, I mean, it really is kind of like this guy is fucking spiraling. He's gone from saying we don't need the Strait of Hormuz to threatening to blow up all the power plants in Iran if they don't open it up, even though it's already open because the US won and they don't need it open because they don't use it. And now he's saying, well, I don't want to be the guy who says, let's stop shooting because that looks bad. Like, he was probably informed by his allies that, like, if you do this, the Iranians are going to shrug their shoulders and they're going to blow up Saudi Arabia and they're going to blow up Israel.
And Qatar and UAE and all the other fucking places where, like, all the helium and sulfur comes from, which is the reason why the fucking American economy works in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. The Iranians, if they want to, they could depopulate the entire Gulf. They could just tell Bahrain or Kuwait, like, sorry, in 10 years, there's not going to be a Kuwait. There's going to be desert. There's not going to be a fucking UAE. There's not going to be a Saudi Arabia. It's just going to be desert, bro. You can't do that to Iran. You can't.
No.
You can say, well, okay, well, this coastal town that relies on desalination, it's going to be gone. Okay, fine. But, like, even if you inflicted, like, maximum damage on Iran, they would come back. You would not be able to inflict as much damage to them as the US inflicted to South Korea or North Korea during the Korean War.
Yeah.
Like, by several orders of magnitude.
Around 3 or 4.
Less damage. Yeah.
Around 3 or 4 orders of magnitude less damage than taken by North Vietnam, which is 10 times smaller. Yeah.
Yeah, and North Vietnam, it's still around.
Oh, yeah.
And but you could inflict doomsday levels of damage on the Gulf. You could just destroy the infrastructure that makes it possible for them to sustain more than, like, a town of 10,000 people. And if you look at pictures of Gulf cities in the 1950s, they look like pictures from, like, other places in the world from the early 19th century, like from 1810 or whatever. Like a city in the Gulf looks like in 1955 looks like a city in, like, southern Italy or whatever, like a really poor part of Italy in like 1790 in terms of size and, like, sophistication. Without all of these cool thingamajigs like desalination plants, like, you can't have life, can't survive there. And so,
no.
So all these threats of these countries, like, joining the war against
Iran,
it's
rubbish.
Yeah, like, okay, if you want to go tit for tat versus Iran, they're gonna survive, and you're gonna be gone. You're gonna be destroyed.
Yeah, completely destroyed. And we have to remember that like these societies, more than half their population, like some of these guys, 80%, 70%, it's all expats. It's like Bengalis, Pakistanis, and Indians. They're not gonna be like, okay, rally around the flag, let's save Saudi Arabia. No, they're just gonna be like, oh fuck, man, I came here to fucking work, right, in these construction jobs, and now this place is fucked. Let me get the fuck out of here. Oh, there's no flights. I'm gonna go get on a boat and get the fuck out. That's basically what's gonna happen, right? So good luck dealing with like the depopulation that you get from that, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Just to finish an earlier point that I was making about like this being the lost war, like once America runs out of all of this, like usable tankers, precision guided munitions, none of it is getting built back. Because the US is about to enter like not only a debt crisis, you know, since the debt ceiling was removed, the US debt, national debt, is growing at like 3 trillion per year. And so you have that like explosive level of growth. And this war is probably going to add just in direct costs. Like they're asking for 200 billion now, but it's probably going to go up to like 400, 500 or something, probably. And I think that just in ammunition for the first week or so, it was like $50 or $60 million. Or no, sorry, $600 million, I think. No, sorry, $60 billion. Like a huge sum. Yeah. $600 million. That's like one plane with 27 inflation.
Oh yeah.
But the like again, they blew through just in ammunition costs, not in like, you know, paying out like people, you know, healthcare to people who are wounded or whatever. Like they blew through like what they're asking for, like a fifth of it or a fourth of it in less than a week. So yeah, like they're going to be asking for a lot more. But like you have this growth of the national debt, but then on top of that, you have the fact that the national debt, like every trillion, is going to be more and more expensive to service. Because what's happening now in this global crisis, oh shit, US Treasury bond rates are spiking.
Yeah.
Or they're not spiking, but they're rising. Like normally there is the flight to safety effect where people flock to America in times of crisis. Now they're not flocking to America for really fucking obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And so like you can't build that stuff back. Like you don't have the industry, you don't have the money, and even if you did have these things, like you're under industrial sanctions by China, so they won't allow you to build back anything.
Yeah. And you used up all your JASMs against fucking Iran and the so-called Wunderwaffen that you developed to quote-unquote defeat China in a 2 to 4 week short conventional war that does not miraculously become a nuclear conflict. Well, we don't have that anymore, right? We didn't use it on Chinese coastal places with like civilian military infrastructure. We used it on fucking Iran, which moved all its stuff underground for like 20, 30, 40 years, right? So it's just like...
I have been contemplating to myself how I can become personally invested in the yuan. Like, how do I do this as an individual?
Invest
honestly,
in
man,
short-range ballistic missiles, my nigga.
Buy some drones, man. Buy some drones. Buy the real stuff. Buy some drones. Invest in drones. That's the future right there. Right. Oh my gosh, I'm just like watching this crazy shit happen, and no, I think Europe's gonna be doing much better than America, because the Europeans can fucking walk to work, the Americans can't, right? The Americans have to fucking drive to work, and yeah, good luck driving to work with like $12 a gallon gasoline or whatever the fuck, right?
Yeah, the thing I was going to say about that was, but this shows my Euro poor, like Euro trash arrogance here, because I was going to say something along the lines of, well, sure, I mean, there's the car thing, but there's also the natural gas thing where it's like, we're going to freeze to death. But I remember, like, when there was, like, this heavy snowfall in the beginning of the year, and I went to post on Twitter, like, Americans don't understand how this feels. And then I was like, but what is the actual climate of, like, inland America, like Northern America? And then I looked at, like, the average temperatures through the year, and it's actually, like, living in Sweden, like, living in central Sweden, like I do in Uppsala, like, it's pretty fucking cool and balmy compared to, like, inland. We have the Gulf Stream, or whatever, like the heat exchanging, like, tide across the Atlantic. So things here aren't so dramatic, but like, apparently places like Chicago and so on are actually much colder than the equivalent, like, latitudes and longitudes, or latitudes, sorry, of places like in Norway or whatever. So Americans might not necessarily run out of gas, but this is down to the Orange Cheeto being so put together that he has some sort of rationing or like subsidy program, so Americans can actually afford to heat their homes. Because if they can't, that shit is going to be worse than in Europe too.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to me that his name is Don, and also he's literally tilting at windmills, because I saw him ranting about the fucking windmills again yesterday.
I mean, someone made a joke, like, what's the one difference between the Vietnam War and the Iran War? Does anyone know?
Trump had an exit plan for Vietnam.
Yeah, exactly. He had a plan for getting out. He doesn't for this one.
Boom.
I mean,
50. 52%. I think like half, more than half, like 175, 180 million of all Americans live in the fucking suburbs, right? The suburbs are like, for the Europeans who don't know what I'm talking about, like, suburbs are basically like townhomes, detached, that kind of stuff. And then you basically have to drive everywhere, man. Like, okay, if you have $12 a gallon gasoline and you have to literally drive 40 miles to work, and you gotta drive to everything else, man. Like, this is worse than COVID, man. This is worse than COVID, right? And this is also in addition to, I don't know, the fucking economy collapsing because the helium is gone for the fucking AI bubble. This is disaster. Like, oh yeah, we killed 10,000 Iranian kids. Yeah, let's declare a ceasefire because our JASMs have run out or whatever the fuck. Yeah, man. Woo! And then he runs away, and like the end result is Iran getting control over the Straits of Hormuz, and I don't know, tens of millions of Americans starving to death. So that's where this thing is going now, man. That's where this thing is going now. Like, especially with, like, the collapse of the suburbs, which, like, the Orange Cheeto seems to have engineered, basically.
Yeah, people make a big deal about, like, Tehran is going to run out of water, which is probably going to happen. And the fascinating thing about Tehran is that, like, Tehran is just it's a really, people go like, oh, they're bombing Tehran, like all of these ancient artifacts from, like, the Achaemenid Persia or whatever. Like, bro, Tehran was first mentioned in, like, the 15th century.
Yeah.
Because someone said, I was going to this big village, and I passed a place called Tehran on the way, like a really small village. Like, it's the place you maybe stopped by for to give your horse some water or whatever while you were going to somewhere actually important. So Tehran, at the turn of the 20th century, I think it had like 100,000 inhabitants or something. Or maybe a bit more, but, like, it was smaller than Uppsala today at 160,000, or like Reno, Nevada. And now it's like this massive town of, like, over 10 million. But
Mhm.
so they do have big problems with water and so on. But if you think about like Americans, you have the entire state of, well, you have Nevada, but Nevada isn't really that big in
Mhm.
terms of population, I think. I could be wrong. Some burger can correct me on this if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
you have a much bigger problem in Arizona, where, you know, Phoenix, Arizona is like the fastest growing town in America, or at least it used to be. And like they're going to run out of water in 20 years.
Mhm.
And so like America has not just like the car centric thing that's built in and that is incredibly unsustainable, but like we are talking about a new American Dust Bowl coming pretty soon,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
at a point where we're not dealing with the worst economic crisis in like I mean, the Great Depression was probably the worst economic crisis in the history of capitalism. But today, we have Homer Simpson saying the worst crisis of capitalism so far,
Yeah. This
because
one's gonna be
this
10
one is
times
going to be
worse.
worse.
This one's gonna be 10 times worse. Yeah. Yeah. Because the thing with this one is that the stuff that's getting destroyed, it's getting outright destroyed by Iran, right? It's not like, oh, it's a little bit of damage here and there because Iran misses 99% of the time. No, it's not that bullshit. Like, Iran hits all the time, right? But like, the stuff that's getting destroyed, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, never, right? Those are the timescales we're looking at with regard to when these come back, right? This is much worse than COVID, because at least with COVID, you could say that, okay, well, you know, maybe a few months, maybe a few years, right? Whatever, right? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, man. And during that time, right, like, okay, the so-called American economy, the greatest economy on God's green earth, right? What are the two sectors that are, you know, still relatively growing with regard to like job numbers, right? Healthcare, right? Healthcare is going up. Why? Because janitors and interns and nurses. All right. And then what? AI, fucking AI. Okay, well, what do both of those need? There's that little gas called helium, which is used as a coolant for medical stuff, as well as for the fucking semiconductors and all the other shit. And oh, what was that, America? Oh, you're not getting that helium from fucking Qatar because Iran blockaded the straits. Oh, sucks to be you, man. Hey, I thought you were an autarky, right? Why don't you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? I thought you were much better off than the fucking Europors you love criticizing so much, right? So it's gonna be a fucking shit show, man, right? But like the way they're gonna collapse, it's gonna be absolutely devastating, right? Because they have all these dependencies on all these components that they can no longer meet. Right? So, but don't worry, Sir Malcolm, Iran is dead, and so you know, like what did Besant say? Hitler is dead in the bunker. We've taken out Himmler. We've taken out this, that, and the other thing. Like they're all fucking spiraling, man. Like
We
now they're making World War II references, and now
what
they're doing all this other shit.
what did he say today? We've jujitsu'd the Iranians because we're selling their oil. Whatever that sense that makes.
He didn't even fucking seize the oil. That's the hilarious thing. He couldn't even seize the Iranian oil underwater. It's just,
Fake and
oh
gay.
dear. Yeah. Oh, what a load of rubbish. Fake and gay. They're asking for $200 billion, and it's like not even been 1 month yet, right? I should probably check what the costs are, the official costs for like all the other wars that they fought, because I think like the official cost for like the Afghanistan war, the 20-year Afghanistan war, was like $879 billion. It's much higher than that, right? But like they officially asked for like $879 billion to fight in Afghanistan, right? Like we are not even 1 month into this war, and they've asked for over $200 billion.
Yeah, and also like it's kind of interesting because it's going to be really hard to actually give a proper estimate of how much this war costs. Because if you think about like a destroyed radar, like the big early warning radar in Kuwait,
Yeah.
like you could say, yeah, this cost a billion 300, like $1.3 billion to build 15 years ago. So we lost $1.3 billion. Well, I mean, you lost an infinite amount of billions of dollars in theory, because that shit is irreplaceable. You cannot replace it. It is impossible.
Yeah.
So, so I mean, how do you actually price that in? It's pretty tough, and it's kind of the same thing when trying to estimate the value of military aid to Ukraine. Like, the true figure in terms of replacement costs, it's like approaching infinity. But it's way, way higher, like by a factor of 3 or something of compared to like the official cost. And the interesting thing, and this was pretty clear even back in 2024, which feels like an eternity ago now, honestly. But even back then, it was really clear that the way that American elites would try to deal with or were trying to deal with the like reversals, the military reversals and the economic weakening and so on of their own position, would be through debasing the currency and debasing the financial system. And this also gives a rise to a lot of copes I have to deal with, which is like, they're just going to print the money, bro. Like, you say they're going to run out of money, but that's never going to happen because they can print an infinite amount of money. But yeah, well, I mean, they can, but that is the problem. They can't print radars, and they can't print artillery shells or healthcare or anything like that. Like, nothing that people actually want can be printed. You can print money, but that's not the same thing. And you could see with the way in which the military-industrial complex in the US was actually taking damage from the war in Ukraine, where costs of producing shit, like inflation for the MIC was like 100% a year or something during the worst period. It's like, yes, we could build this missile for, $1 million 4 years ago, but now it costs $2,500,000. And that's the actual like cost for us to produce. That's with 0% profit margins. You could say, well, they're just stealing money. No, if you debase the currency, this shit is what happens. If you print money into like a critical lack of resources, the point of money gets destroyed. Money is supposed to be like this signaling system for the distribution of resources and assets. And you can knock out that like signaling function pretty easily, which is also what you're seeing now with the way the WTI index, like the oil price, the oil futures, has been manipulated down, where the actual cost of buying a physical barrel of oil in Asia, like if you buy something and you expect to have it in your hand in a week, that's like $160, $170.
Yeah.
But the cost of VTI is like less than $110. That is pretty clear. Like, some of it is due to market dynamics. It's much harder to transport VTI to Asia, for example. But a lot of it seems to be like some form of manipulation. They're just pushing the price down, which the only thing that does is that it triggers shortages because there's not enough oil to go around on the planet right now.
Yeah. Also, you just get the arbitrage. You just get the arbitrage in like the Pacific, right? And you just like, okay, well, if they're manipulating the prices here, I can get a better deal on the other side of the world.
Are you telling me that printing money isn't going to mean that mass deportations are coming?
Mass deportations.
Oh yeah, that thing. Like that thing is deader than Greenland at this point.
Like, we just got to turn the money printer on until the mass deportation is finished, is my suggestion.
Centcom posted another video and they're blowing up fucking old rusty trucks now.
Yeah. That truck probably was been rusting for like 10 years or whatever the fuck in the fucking desert.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the problem. This was the problem. Anyone with like, completely average intelligence could have figured out. Like a child, a 14-year-old child or a 12-year-old child could have figured this out much easier than most adults, because the child hasn't been educated and so relies on, bespoke cognitive processing here, like trying to actually use their brain to figure things out. Like you have this Air Force that is geared towards KPIs, that is like trapped in the throes of like the new public management logic where we measure success by the amount of bombs we drop. And then you have the fact that they can't deal with attrition at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to use standoff munitions, which are in short supply, and drones, which they can't make more of, and which cost like a third of like an actual F-15 or whatever. And now they're running out of drones because drones have been known to be, like these male drones have been known to be unsurvivable for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
They were unsurvivable over Yemen. And of course, this was known. Like they've been survivable over Afghanistan because the Afghans really had nothing in the way of like even half decent air defense. But now they're running out of drones. They're running out of standoff munitions. And also the Iranians have obviously had like half of a century to strategize around air power.
Oh yeah. They've studied every single American battle. They studied Yugoslavia. They fucking studied Iraq. They fucking studied Afghanistan. They know what kind of bait to use. They know what to do with regard to like operations and all these other things. They know what they're doing, right? Like, why are they doing this thing of like, okay, well, let's mothball a bunch of these like frigates that look like these big juicy targets, and then the Americans hit them, and they're not like, yeah, man, we're winning because like our navy's still sailing, and like their navy's at the bottom of the ocean, and like a bunch of these retards on Substack, they keep saying that. I'm like, buddy, the entire Iranian navy is like speedboats, right? What you shot is like 40-year-old junk, right?
Pete Hegseth keeps showing that footage of like them blowing up like the old ships and acting like it's something.
Yeah. It's retarded, man. It's retarded. You're not even dealing with toddlers. You're not even dealing with orangutans. You're dealing with actual goyim, right? Which is like less intellect than even those two groups, right? So, French political analyst. Iran has proven to be a powerful state advancing towards victory in this war, unlike the petrodollar monarchies and emirates, which have proven to be fragile states of glass. Hey, look, the French got something right, Sir Malcolm. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, the issue right now is just that this, like, everyone can kind of see where this is heading, but the system is not flexible enough to actually like bend enough to deal with this crisis. So, I mean, the French are just going to say, yeah, like these Americans can go fuck themselves, which one general actually said on like French television. And people were like, oh, that's a bit harsh. Well, they deserve it, was his reply.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit based and red-pilled to me.
Yeah. I mean, Mark Carney sounded based and red-pilled, but, how did that end up?
Well, true, yeah.
Yeah, like it's kind of that people know we're heading for a total crash, but they are stuck like the deer in the headlights. And this will go on until the pain becomes so awful it can no longer be ignored. When they run out of fuel, like when they straight up run out of gasoline in places like Australia, then the Australians are going to come to the table and talk with the Iranians. And they're gonna say like we need to solve this, and like even if the Trump admin wanted to solve this, which they don't, like they can't. And Trump is, for domestic reasons and because Americans are basically like cows, he's just playing to like the ungrateful Europeans and the ungrateful, like right now the punching bag is Europe, but they're gonna graduate to the ungrateful Koreans and the ungrateful Japanese soon enough, and the ungrateful Australians.
Yeah.
Just because like it's gonna be the Asians that cry uncle first, I think.
It's gonna be Japan and South Korea that cry uncle first. Like they are what 90% importing and what have you, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and Taiwan is gonna cry uncle, maybe even faster, because they are super reliant on imports. But unlike Japan, they don't have any strategic reserves.
Yep.
Japan can, in theory, limp along for half a year or something. Taiwan can't really limp along for 3 more weeks.
Nope.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, people in America had this insane, fixation on the idea that there would be, Saving Private Ryan with Chinese Marines trying to land on fucking Juno Beach or whatever the fuck. Which was never going to happen. Never. Because
never going to happen,
even the D-Day landings involved a preparatory bombardment that's 2 months or whatever of them firing artillery.
Yeah.
If the Chinese do that, the U.S. is going to run out of juice in 2 weeks. So American war planning depended on basically the Chinese going in dry with 0 foreplay and just doing a contested landing on a beach, even though everyone knows that if you do that, you're going to get slaughtered. And everyone knows that the Chinese have the ability to just go, well, we can just build a shit ton of missiles and we have a shit ton of missiles. Why don't we use them? But no, that was the only way Americans could actually conceive of themselves winning a war, which is why that war scenario had to be crowbarred into the Chinese war planning. Of course, the Chinese want this for reasons. And now it's going to be the Chinese saying, well, you can either starve to death and freeze to death or whatever underneath this American blockade, the Americans are de facto blockading you, or we can sit down and we can figure out a way for us to give you energy. And I mean, I think that some Taiwanese are going to say, well, we don't really need energy anyway. What has energy ever done for us? But that's only going to last for a little while.
Yeah. I think that the Chinese have well over 1 billion barrels in their reserve, right? I did a back of the napkin calculation when the war started with regard to, okay, how many barrels are in reserve with regard to the entire world, right? So these are emergency oil reserves. The lower limit is probably 3 billion. The upper limit is around 3.6 billion. The Chinese themselves account for a bit over 1/3 of that, right? The Europeans, the G7, these guys, they're not even close to the 500, 600 million. I think the Americans are at 400 million or whatever. The Western countries are fucked, basically, right? They've already said that we're going to be releasing 400 million of emergency reserves at a rate of 1 point something or 2 million barrels daily, right? So that's not going to really do anything, right? It's kind of you're trying to apply a Band-Aid to a leaking wound, right? The leaking wounds is going to leak away, right? But that's where things are at. What does this guy say? Iranian analyst Nasir Torabi. We have entered a new phase. After this war, Iran will be recognized as a global power. We must take steps to produce or acquire nuclear weapons. I mean, honestly, bro, once the Americans leave, you can do whatever the fuck you want. You can, charge people $5 million per ship in, Chinese yuan. You can test your nuke in the Loop Desert. You can do whatever the fuck you want, man, right? Because, as Sir Malcolm was saying, America without the Jassams is kind of fucked. There's nothing else left to do after that.
And there's also what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Westerners are stuck in this, or Westoids rather. Westoids are stuck in this frame of mind where it's it's really cool to have like this sort of Jewish morality of like we get to kill all the children because we are so powerful that this is never going to happen to us. Like the American cries out in pain as he strikes you today. Like that is what the country has been reduced to. But and you can say the same thing about the Swede. Like the Swede will cry out in pain as he tries to strike you. But the problem here is, at the end of the day, Iran can ask for reparations, and if you tell them no, they can say, well, we can do this the easy way or the hard way.
Yeah.
Either you pay us right now, or we board the ships that are going to sail with oil to Europe or to Asia or to anywhere else, and we simply wait until this ship pays us, a part of what we feel we are owed. So Iran has labored under sanctions for a very long time, but now we in the West are starting to feel the bite of sanctions coming the other way. And these are sanctions focused on commodities. The Iranians are going to impose like oil sanctions unilaterally on the West. And the Chinese have like technology and material sanctions already. Right now, the US can either say, well, we're not going to build any more radars or any more missiles or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they can say, well, we're just gonna have Ford Motor Company lay in an order for this, and we're gonna take all of the stuff they import from China, and we're gonna put it in a radar or a plane or whatever. At that point, okay, the Chinese will say, yeah, fine, you can do that if you want. If we see this happening, we're just gonna cut the ration that Ford is allowed to ask for. And also, until like you stop doing this, Ford is not going to be able to make any cars. So good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck.
Like I don't think they're even particularly interested in trying to prevent the U.S. government from looting its own companies. Because if the U.S. does that, that just means that the American political class is like dedicated to destroying the American economy in a more thorough way than the Chinese could do from Beijing.
Osama bin Laden laughing and Saddam Hussein laughing.
Mike P. The U.S. and NATO have asked Iraqi resistance factions to stop firing on the Green Zone in Baghdad and Victory Base for 24 hours so that they can retreat to Turkey and their base in Erbil. The U.S. has now officially, finally, at last, lost the Iraq War. Sir Malcolm, what do you have to say?
I mean, GG, well played.
Bye-bye.
Do they get a participation trophy?
What's so fucking funny about this is that the Iraqi popular mobilization forces, like the Hashd al-Shabi and so on, and the Kataib Hezbollah, these guys were fucking armed by the US to deal with ISIS, which was also armed by the US. And now they're using their military training courtesy of America and Iran, because America empowered Iran in Iraq to kick the Americans out. You had Richard Hanania, that fucking snake, basically saying, this war has disproven the concept of blowback. You can just bomb people, and there's never any negative consequences. And it's like, nigga, Hashd al-Shabi kicking you out of Iraq. That's fucking blowback, bro.
Yeah, blowback is about as American as apple pie at this point. It's like him writing a book like, American don't like apple pie. Apple pie is not America.
There's gonna be a lot of shit happening, right? I won't be surprised if like the Hashda Shabi actually fucking rush Kuwait or something at this rate, right? It's just gonna be like, yeah, let's do a ground invasion of fucking Kuwait in like July or August because all the Americans are fucking running like bitches, right? Oh my gosh.
Hands off Iran, you American Israeli hogs. That's what I say.
Honestly, man, it no longer matters. Iran's just gonna keep going until it meets its objectives, right? Like even if Trump leaves tomorrow, Iran's just gonna chokehold Hormuz until everyone kowtows and just like gives Iran everything it wants, right? Obviously, it has to be reasonable, like Sir Malcolm was saying. You know, we can't pay you $10 trillion, but like, hey, $500 billion, $1 trillion. Well, if all of you guys, like, contribute, yeah, $1 trillion is not a difficult sum, you know. Thank you very much. Payment in gold, silver is also accepted. So.
Yeah, Trump is trying to move on from that shoot into the next work with Cuba, I would say.
Honestly, man, it's even possible that as he's getting decimated in Iran, he might send like 200 Marines or whatever to like fucking Cuba. It's possible. He might be that retarded. And it might be like an actual Bay of Pigs 2.0, and they all get killed and captured and wounded. Like, enough, America was destined to die anyways, like at the end of every empire, we always fight a war, like every empire eventually fights a war, which is like a Sicilian expedition and they die. Well, okay, sure, but, don't worry enough. We got to die to the hands of the Persians, which is like a 6,000-year-old civilization. At least we didn't die in Uruguay or whatever the fuck. I'm like, buddy, I got news for you, man. I got news for you.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a lot.
It's gonna be bad. Yeah, I saw the Mexicans disobeyed the rule and said they will continue giving gas to Cuba. So that's good news.
It's good news, but like, I think the Cubans themselves, they're saying that they're expecting some kind of offensive from the Americans, and I believe them. I think like maybe sometime in the summer or in the autumn, as this war against Iran gets absolutely fucked, right? Trump might try something to like salvage his image, quote unquote, and try this thing on Cuba, right? He might try like a Venezuela 2.0 or whatever, right? But at that point, man, yeah, it's What do you think, Sir Malcolm? Is he gonna try it on Cuba, or like is this it with regard to American empire?
Yeah, I think Cuba is. I mean, again, like Trump is senile and he thinks in terms of hype and aura moments. But I don't really see what kind of benefit taking Cuba would give. I mean, I'm not saying that like they're making some sort of cost benefit analysis that's like smart, but I think that once they do it, okay, you have to administer that shit.
Yeah, that's right.
And the US doesn't have the juice to pay for anything or administer anything.
But Sir Malcolm, if we take Cuba, we can like show the mullahs that we can take a big island like Cuba. So taking Karg Island is going to be a piece of cake. So obviously, they'll surrender to us as soon as we land on Cuba and take the island.
It's going to be Greater Miami.
Oh man, like the Goyim, like the Goyim, the cattle Americans, America with a triple K, right? They don't do thinking, they do emoting. And so I'm doing some emoting and doing their thinking in their stead with regard to what their next moves are on the chessboard, right? But like Cuba and Iran seems to be where they're gonna die. That seems to be the end point for this like satanic pedophile Epstein class empire.
Might I borrow another analogy Malcolm has used before? Maybe the alley is Iran and then the hospital is Cuba, where they go to actually die. Like they're getting knifed down in Iran and palliative care in Cuba.
Yeah, I mean,
care in Cuba.
The Americans are eventually going to get kicked out of Cuba simply because the Americans are so fucking weak. And sure, people might be really dissatisfied with the Communist Party. But like Americans aren't really going to improve living standards all that much other than lifting the sanctions. And once you like the idea of there being some like pro-American liberal faction or whatever in Cuba, like that's just retarded. That's ridiculous. So Americans might try to get some sort of new like satrapy or whatever, but it's so fucking weak that the moment it stumbles, everyone is gonna throw off the joke. Like the same thing goes with Venezuela. The idea that America controls Venezuela at the point where they're having like paramilitaries doing like setting up checkpoints to check if people have like American passports or whatever so they can kill them. Like, no, this is not a pro-American country. Like all of these gains during the Trump era, all of them are just illusions. It's the same thing with the whole militarization of ICE, where all of these people are on like 2-year temporary contracts where they're like legally barred from full-time employment. So the ICE agents are just going to be here for a short while because that's how they set it up. And now they've basically stopped with the whole mass deportation thing to begin with. So yeah, like it's all just a fugazi. It's all just like kayfabe. Like it's pro wrestling. Trump is a pro wrestler, and like the act is wearing very thin.
Scott Bessent, 1 month ago, 2025 was about setting the table. 2026 is going to be a banquet for the American people. The economy is finally taking off. Gentlemen, what do you have to say to that?
I mean, Americans are really enjoying a banquet of consequences right now, so I guess that's true. Yeah, I mean, like, I really wonder, like, I think that someone like Bessent and definitely someone like Marco Rubio, all they're calculating right now is when to jump off the train. Like, will I get a better deal if I leave the administration now, or will I be called a traitor or whatever? Will it be safer for me to wait a couple of more months? Like this shit is gonna fall apart. Anyone who thinks that Trump is gonna be president in 2028, like, what the fuck are you? Like, what are you even doing? Like, first of all,
yeah,
I mean, he might be dead just from dementia. Like,
Yeah.
He isn't looking all that hot these days, bro. And I mean, Biden is probably gonna outlive him. That's the final irony in this. Biden is gonna be there at Trump's funeral, inshallah. But yeah.
And Vance is going back to the holler. He's not up for maybe moving forward. It sounds like Rubio might be the pick if there is even going to be a future here.
Oh yeah, Marco Rubio, the guy that Trump defeated in 2016 by calling him fucking
Little Marco.
midget neocon. He's definitely what the Americans really want right now.
If it does actually come to that, I will love rerunning that footage of him blaming Israel for the Iran, for getting into it with Iran.
Yeah. Oh dear. So yeah, no, markets open up in a few hours. It's going to be fun to watch them try and manipulate the oil prices again, but something tells me it's going to be much more difficult this time around, right? My own theory, and this is my own theory, I don't really have like perfect empirical evidence for this, right? But my hunch is that like the 48-hour thing that Trump gave with regard to Iran, that ultimatum of like, Iran, open up the straits, otherwise we're going to hit your power plants. I think the reason he did that was because like Bessent and all these other fucking stooges, they basically told the Orange Cheeto that, sir, if this continues, we're going to lose control of the fucking energy markets. You got to do something, sir. You got to get the Iranian regime to heal, right? But yeah, no, it's
That's what was behind the whole like scolding the Israelis for the South Pars Field thing.
I don't think they scolded Israel, man. I think Israel's the fucking overlord. I think like all this thing about I think all
he
this.
at least
I
came out
think
and said like
No, 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 no.
That's
No, bro. Like all this stuff about like Netanyahu breaking news. Netanyahu and Trump are heated backroom blah blah blah. Like that. That's goy slop. Like the goyim in America. Like that's goyim goy slop for the cattle who are like, oh, we still have agency, we still matter. Oh, if we wanted to, we can tell Israel to take a hike. No, dude, you are Israel's little bitch. You're their goyim, you're their slave, you're their Hebrew plaything, you're their golem, right? They tell you what the fuck it is you have to do. You lick their shoes, you lick their balls, right? All this stuff, it's just performative. Like Trump, Bibi, like they're on agreement with everything, man. And when I say agreement, I mean Bibi telling Trump 100% of the time what to do, right? Like,
no, I agree with that. I just think the slop can affect the markets too, I guess is all I'm saying.
I mean, they gotta try harder, man, because those Asians, those guys in the Pacific, they're paying hand over fist for all that oil, right? So if these prices, these fake prices continue, the Americans are gonna hit shortages and outages of like many different grades of like petroleum.
Yeah.
So,
Well, like I was saying earlier, like Angela Nagel was saying, I think that the propaganda and the goy slop has been really terrible on behalf of the Americans.
breaking news: a British nuclear-powered Royal Navy submarine arrived in the Arabian Sea. Okay, so basically, whatever. So they only sent one over. I mean, the British could try something, Sir Malcolm, and then they'll be at the bottom of the sea as well. So there you go. You get to follow America straight into hell. Good for you, Britain. Iran has started hitting Tel Aviv in daytime now. Iran has announced that it's shifted its war policy from defense to offense. I'm wondering if the past few weeks were defensive because the Iranians were fasting during Ramadan, LOL. What will an offensive policy do to Israel?
Yeah, I mean, the issue is just that Israel as a country, it's not viable even in peacetime. Like the Israelis, like if you think about the sort of internal demographics, they have like 45 or 40% of the population. That's just like when American Wignats complain about the blacks, like the Haredim are kind of like that, but worse. Like they don't really care about monoports or whatever, but it would be better if they did, because I mean, funny story. Like there was some poll on 4chan where people were saying like they've been thrown out of 109 countries, these fucking Jews, and like someone with like an Israeli like trip code like flag comes in and says it's about Israel is going to be the 110th country that Jews get kicked out of because these fucking Haredim have got to go. Like we can't live with them. Like I understand why people are anti-Semitic now. Like was the Israeli Jew, like Ashkenazi, said he was the one saying that about his quote unquote countrymen, because the entire country is set up like it's a huge fucking Ponzi scheme. Only half of the country actually pays taxes or, does military service. The Haredim refuse both, and they live on like government welfare. And their big obsession is we need to annex more land and build more settlements and have more kids that someone else is going to pay for. And like they don't care if it's the goyim or if it's the Jews that actually have jobs that pay for them. Like someone else has got to pay for me. And I mean, before this war started, like this series of wars, for like during a 4-year period, the Israeli government collapsed 5 times. That's not normal, but like the only way you can have a government going at this point is by making these deals with the Haredim and so on. But you can't really keep like the society working if you exempt these people from contributing. So eventually, like the Supreme Court actually passed down a decision that said, like, Haredim have to serve in the military. They have to, like, be a part of society. And the way the government dealt with this is that they basically said, yeah, well, that's the law, but we're not going to enforce it. We don't care about the law anymore. Like, these people are going to keep living on like as parasites.
Mhm.
So even without this war, you can't keep a society like that going forever. And I know that, like, people like, I think that this was more common in 2004, but now it's 2006. I saw people like, what's his name? Based Mathematic or whatever, like, or Umfi, saying that, like, oh yeah, like, sure, Israel is going to win or lose eventually, but it might be like 80 years we have to deal with this parasitic entity. And it's like, no, it's not even 80 months at this point.
No,
Like,
no, it's not.
the country is going like turbo bankrupt also.
Mhm.
They're basically making ends meet, partly by just begging the Americans, but also by, like, American politicians straight up robbing Americans
Mhm.
to pay for Israel. And the way they do this is like, and this is particularly common in Ron DeSantis, Florida, where state and county governments buy these high-risk Israeli bonds that are basically rated as garbage. And these bonds, I don't even think they have like an interest coupon or anything. So, like, you lose money by buying them because you aren't paid anything for holding them. And the risk of non-payment is like 80%. Like, the risk of the Israelis saying, sorry, you're getting nothing. We can't afford paying you back. It's like 80%. And the
Mhm.
risk premium is 0. So you are straight up, like, just putting that shit in an index fund will at least let you keep up with inflation, maybe. But this is just a backdoor donation to Israel using money that should be used to, like, pay for maintaining the sewage system in, like, Miami or whatever. Like, they're just taking that money and shoving it to Israel. So they're looting the goy cattle. But even with that, like, they can't keep the society going for much longer, even without the rockets.
Yeah. No. And so ends another sub 80-year experiment, Sir Malcolm. Right? There we go.
It's always funny to me that if they would have just played a little nicer in the sandbox and not been expansionist, kept to the kibbutz and just, played nice with the neighbors and not done the whole, we need a state that constantly grows from the Nile, the Euphrates to the Nile, like, maybe the world will be so much better. Not trying to blame them for everything, but just that.
Bro, what are you doing? You gotta blame them for everything. No, like, it's not in their nature. It's not in their nature. Like, they're fucking annoying. You gotta beat the shit out of them every now and then, right? But, well, like, they had the American Goyim. The American Goyim was around to plow the land for them, but now the American Goyim's gonna die, right? So they're on their own and they're gonna fucking die as well, right? So that's what it is.
The steak is going away, so we're going to the stir fry in India. The
India
stir
can't
fry.
do anything, bro. India is like entirely dependent on like the Straits of Hormuz. Entirely dependent.
I just got to say that guy who called Laura Loomer out at the India conference,
Mm-hmm.
fucking patriot. That guy, really like that.
Mm-hmm. So much fucking stupidity. Yeah. With that being said, we've gone on for, I don't know, like 3+ hours.
Yeah.
I think, Sir Malcolm, your like nighttime or whatever, you gotta call it quits.
Yeah,
I think
I
this is
need
a
to
good time
go
to call it
and
quits as well.
get a pizza while, you can still do that without having to fight off a bunch of fucking cannibals and, like, road raiders and shit. Um, I mean, at least like
Yeah.
Trump didn't make anime real, and he didn't build a wall, and he didn't lock her up, and he didn't do mass deportations. But at least he's making
He made
Mad
Max real, bro.
Yeah, like they're already stealing gas from each other, like siphoning
Yeah.
out of each other's cars and so on, and like the gas stations
Yeah.
are running out. So Mad Max
Mhm.
is gonna happen, bro.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. With that being said, thank you, Sir Malcolm, for showing up. Maybe we'll do this next week on Sunday, same
Yep.
time. And yeah, no, thank you, ladies and gents, for showing up. I will bid you farewell, and remember, as always, you know what the usual words are, but we gotta say them every single time. The doom cometh, or shall I say, the doom had finally arrived. All right, see you guys. Thanks.
Summer is ending.
Summer is ending.
Your soul is mine. Fatality.